Hey, what's going on, y'all? What's a good word? The lighting in this thing is all messed up. Hold on. Trying to figure out what to do, but I have not figured out a lighting situation that I like. Huh. Hold on a second. I thought I liked it till I started, but let's see. Yeah, it's a little better. I've seen worse. Yeah. That Obama speech. I was thinking about it, right? Damn, man. You said you need to work on your set design, looking a little bachelorish. Oh, damn. Y'all are harsh. Yeah, I'm blaming the COVID, you know. Let's see. Some bags hanging on the door. Yeah, well, what can I do, man? You guys are tough critics, man. I should be allowed to slip now and again, but I guess y'all stay on my ass. That's good. You keep me honest. One thing I'll say about the Obama speech, I mean, I had very low expectations, and somehow it still surprised me with how bad it was. Like, I mean, my expectations were really low. I want to make that really clear. And I was still very shocked. I wasn't prepared to be that shocked, honestly. I think he's really divorced from the ground. He doesn't realize how the game has changed on the ground as far as the internet, where black people are right now. I think he really doesn't get it. I think he still thinks this is like the 2000s. Probably also because all those boomers in South Carolina just voted for Biden just on the strength of the Obama Association. Like he doesn't. I don't think he realizes how much things have changed. If he did, he probably wouldn't have that Teach for America girl there, Brittney Packnett and stuff. I don't think he would do it. Um, like he's still on that old 2000s intersectionality playbook. Yeah, Obama is a white man with a black father. I can't take credit for that one. That was Yvette Carnell, but it was a really good way of putting it. Like Yvette Carnell said, all this time we thought Obama was a black man with a white mother, but turns out he was a white man who happened to have a black father. Someone asked, "Has it changed?" Yeah, I think it's kind of changed. I'll give you guys an example. Um, my phone. Let me try something real quick to see. My phone is supposed to automatically sync with my computer, but it didn't happen. So I took a video with my phone, and I thought when I went into the computer, it would be on the computer, but it's not. But if I manually connect my phone, I think it should work. So give me a second. Yeah, I can't figure out exactly what the system is with how Apple auto sync works, but so let's see. And I had to sync it up manually. Seems to be working. Okay. All right. It is not working. Let's try this. But I saw something in the news right before I started that kind of blew my mind because I've never even seen, and this is in response to the person asking if stuff has changed. Um, so here we go. Hopefully the sound is pretty good. Going to open it right now. Let's see. What should I open this in? Whew. Okay. And this is a New York one. And it's funny, New York one interviewed me in the street, and then they ended up not using it. And I think because what I said was probably not what they were expecting to hear. They interviewed me on the street, like a man in the street interview, to ask me how I felt about this thing that just happened on the street with hold on. Not oh, here we go. Okay, cool. There we go. First, let me give a shout out to people here. iSound Info, how's it going? iSound Info, you have my solemn promise that this place will be to your liking. All the bachelor stuff in the back's gonna be gone. Um, let's see. Manny Hazard, how you doing? Get Free, how you doing? 2008 B Scott, how you feeling? Ruben Martin. Yeah, yeah. You know what? Obama was the one. He was meant to be the sheepdog. He was meant to be the sheepdog in chief, um, shepherding black people to the Democratic vote, and that's not looking good. He said in 2016, he was like, "Yo, I'll consider it a personal stain on my legacy if you don't show up and vote for me. I'm Barack Obama, and I personally consider it a stain if you don't come out and vote for me." He just was saying for real that he was expecting people to vote. He put the extra twang on it, and nobody showed up, and it was hurting because the what's up, Alexander Dixon? How's it going? Yeah, the whole thing was supposed to be that he was supposed to deliver that, and the real secret is that his things his base is wine moms and a handful of talented 10th HBCU drivers and stuff. It's yeah. Whew. He's influential, but in the worst way possible. He's an influencer. He's just not. I don't think he's shepherding anything but some boomers and some yoga wine moms and the Oprah audience. Hey, 2008 B Scott, Phil B, Justin D, got host. God damn, your wall looks like a bleak midwinter afternoon. Yeah, it's I guess you're talking about that little thing up there. I thought I gave it a little bit of class, but yeah, let's see. Someone said, uh, looks more authentic. You ain't no damn gamer. Yeah, I guess so, man. I don't know. I feel like gamer is even more bachelorist, so you should have your wife on the show one day. I asked her, she said no thank you. She said you guys are savages. She hears how y'all talk about people, and she knows you guys are savages. But I'm gonna keep working on her. I'm gonna try to get her on. Hey Sly, Manny Hazard, Incognito, Manu 12, SND. How's everyone doing? Anyway, yeah, let's get down to business. Let's get down to business. This is what I just saw a couple minutes before I came in here. God damn, the room is my wife's touch. See, that's the reason why. That's the reason why she doesn't want to. That's why she doesn't want to be on with y'all, man. See that? Um, no, it's just a little bit messy, but the decorations. I'll let you see more of it. Hold on. Yeah, see that? You already started roasting her. There's plants. See, there's things hanging on the wall. There's an aloe plant. There's plants on the windowsill. Yeah, I mean, there's classier stuff happening than what's going on back there. But I'll have it looking less bachelorish for y'all tomorrow. So anyway, as as we were, hold on. Let's hope the volume on this is good. Yeah, yeah. No, the lighting situation though, I definitely have to get it under control. I definitely have to get. Homeboy said a lava lamp. Okay. Um, but here we go. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Oh, no sound. Okay, hold on. Let's get that fixed. But basically, what's gonna happen here? I'm gonna have to fix the sound thing. Um, what happened here is that called out. they basically called out Obama for not. It's a weak call out, but by the media standards, especially the non-Fox media, it's very rare. Like compared to stuff that we say on here about Obama, it's not much, but um, it's still kind of major. Let me get the sound working. If y'all got tips for the lighting, an LED light, I mean, drop a link to a product or something. Let me know. Just gonna make sure the sound is working. Hmm. I think the sound should be working. Let's try. Let me know if it doesn't. Still no sound? No sound, huh? Yeah. I have no idea why there's no sound on this. But basically, they bring up that critics were asking why is Obama not why is Obama not doing anything? Basically, they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on. That they said they didn't say them. They said some of his critics brought up that he didn't do anything. He had 8 years in office and he didn't do anything. And then the black lady kind of reiterates it, but then they walk it back a little bit. They walk it back a little bit, but the fact that they even humored it or even brought up what the critics said as being remotely legitimate, I thought was pretty major. I thought was a lot. I was really impressed that they. Yeah, yeah. So see, there you got my wife going. She popped up. Yeah, no, no. I showed the plants. Yeah. So, any, anyway, let's see. Let's get started with the festivities. The town hall for people who didn't see it. We're gonna jump around because it's kind of long, but we're gonna jump around.
systemic racism within law enforcement. Together, we can work to redefine public safety so that it recognizes the humanity and the dignity of every person. This town hall that we're having today is a part of an ongoing My Brother's Keeper Alliance town hall series. My Brother's Keeper was launched by President Obama in 2014 after the tragic killing of Trayvon Martin. The president launched it in the East Room of the White House, calling on America and everybody to do whatever they could in their power to make sure young men of color knew that they matter and to reduce the systemic barriers that stand in their way and make sure every young
Now,
person
one
has
thing that
every
keeps happening
opportunity
on this,
to
and you're gonna
reach their
see
dreams.
that keeps happening on this. I'm not sure who this guy is. His name's Michael Smith, but I'm not sure who that is. A lot of this is just kind of tooting their own horn and tooting their own record. It's kind of trying to let people know they did their part, and any progress that's been made is their own. So there's a lot of that. Hold on. Yeah, and young men of color. You guys already saw that.
Today, the work of My Brother's Keeper continues as the My Brother's Keeper Alliance at the Obama Foundation, where we lead a network of more than 250 communities and a massive call to action to businesses, mayors, and other
And
folks.
there's like a lot of phrases gonna come up over and over again. Call to action is one of them. Doing the work's gonna come up like a lot. Like it's very jargon filled, like the social justice version of consultant talk. It's a lot of buzzwords, a lot of buzz phrases.
Folks and communities across the country. Our mission is to build safe and supportive communities where boys and young men of color are valued and have clear pathways to opportunity. We're excited to have President Obama sharing his viewpoints today, but also gathered a panel of local and national experts who are fighting on the ground and who have been fighting this fight for many years. Before we start our program today,
On the
I
ground is
want to
another one they say a
acknowledge the
lot.
lives of George, of Brianna, of Ahmaud, and far too many others by taking a 30-second moment of silence in order to remember those lives and
So they
reflect.
do a moment of
Please join me
silence.
in a
Let me
moment
just
of
jump ahead.
silence. Play on Patrick.
Now, each thing they have,
Ohio State University in the fall.
and this is a high school kid is gonna attend Ohio State University, and I don't want to say anything bad about him because he's young. If I was young, you put me on here, I would have done it. Like I'm not gonna say anything bad about this kid, and what he did is fine. Just not for this moment. I don't think. I think it's like I think when Obama does these things, he does these things similar to I think he does these things similar to in Roots. There was a sequel to Roots, and in the sequel, like this white philanthropist lady um makes the dean of the school sing because she wants to see some of that old Negro religion. A lot of people know there was a Roots too, but if I had the scene, I'd pull it up. But that's what this thing coming up is. Like I feel like it's very unnecessary, but check it out.
And plans to major in criminal justice and criminology. It is my pleasure to introduce this brilliant, bright young man, our future. Play on Patrick.
And this kid is good.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is
This kid is good, and to be able to not be nervous and be so professional and everything, like the kid is good. He's young. He's sharp. He's doing his thing, but I just didn't like this, and you'll see why.
Plan Patrick. I am 18 years old and plan to attend the Ohio State University. And this is 2020 quarantine killings.
Here he goes.
And they ask, how do Black boys write about their city? How do we know street? If we don't know uncracked sidewalk, they ask, how do these Black boys know anything about their city? How the buildings.
And it's like, look, it's a good poem, I think. I used to go attend slam poetry sometimes and stuff, and look, and it was good. I mean, there's some really bad slam poetry out there that's a little extra with it, and he didn't really sound like that with all the extra affectations, and I felt like, it was earnest and everything, but it just kind of felt like why is it here? Like I feel like there should be something kind of serious. I feel like it's there because as this was going on, this is the YouTube version, but if you watch on Periscope, where you can see, if you watch on Periscope where you could see the instant responses, it was like so amazing. It just felt like white people really just doing a little bit too much. Um there was something that's kind of gross about it. I wish I could find it with the actual stuff. Yeah, someone said like a prop. Yeah, yeah. It was. If it felt. I know the word performative is overused, and I want to perform. I think he really meant it, but I just felt like he was dropping kind of like how he sang "Amazing Grace" at the funeral of the people who died at um the church in South Carolina. It reminded me of that, where he was singing "Amazing Grace" because that's the song that white people associate with the old Negro religion, and I felt like it was made for those optics. It was like what they knew was gonna test well with the audience. But let's keep going.
Are sitting on corners where brothers' bodies are still learning how to rot. There are small crosses placed in the grass where families cannot afford to bury their loved ones. Reminds my brothers and I that we are early graves before we are anything else. We call those corners playgrounds. We call those corners the killing fields. We call our bodies bullets. Even if we were never aimed in the right direction, we call the remnants of our mother's family the diaspora tree. We make a catalog of prayers out of broken hands. We pray for our family tree to make its way back home to this soil. We use our hands to dig the graves we cannot afford. We are farmers of broken Black bodies. We have never known city, never known comfort, never known safe street in any city. We use our feet to walk streets paved by sunlight and ask our shadows if they meant to choose this skin. We make a catalyst of bodies, our
Yeah,
dinner menu,
and
and
I'm
we
sick of the
eat with
word
our
bodies.
eyes
I'm sick
closed.
of
We are fed lies so easily it tastes like medicine. Always.
yeah, and the affectations of the breathing, and I'm sick of the whole like please feel our pain thing. Like I'm sick of people suffering, parading the suffering for white people to marvel at. Because I've said this before, I've said it in the podcast, I've said it on the live stream. I feel like to white people, what our jobs are what we are to them are suffering vessels, like examples of how to suffer with dignity. Where our biggest talent is our endless capacity to shoulder suffering. So I think they like a lot of suffering displays, like uh, they like a lot of suffering displays. And well, okay, I thought the poem was good for what it was. Like I think the poem. I think. I mean, this. I think is not meant to go by the standards of traditional Western poetry. Like I don't think it's meant to have the meter, the whatever. I think this is a different genre of poetry, and it's Black Bohemian poetry, and it's like I mean he's 18. It's okay. I don't really care about like this is not rap. This is not meant to be structured, So yeah, it's what most slam poetry sounds like, like I'm not it's not really my thing, but I think by the rules of slam poetry, it's okay. And that's the other thing too. He's really young, like and yeah, so yeah, I don't want to call him names. And like I feel like the elders are the ones who should be telling him not to do it. He like it is what it is. It's just at the time and place for it. Like I'm not setting him up here to be roasted. I would have done something like that if they put me on
From the
there.
Indians, when our gods believed in the same beginning, we don't know home. We know how generations of our people could use these legs, could run miles on into the night, our faces bedazzled with the remnants of the stars.
Yeah, but I just hate all this, like, suffering stuff. And if you really just saw what I was talking about with the comments, it was just really gross. It was just really gross. I did not like it at all. Did nothing for me. Let's see. Man, there's a scene I wish I could find from that roots thing, but I just can't find it. It was it's called Roots of Next Generation, but basically there's a philanthropist who's showing up to see the dean of college, and it's meant to be an HBCU, but I think it's a fictional HBCU, and she's going to be a philanthropist, and she's going there, and it's meant to be like a kind of business philanthropy meeting. She's meeting with him. He's a very accomplished dean, and then when she shows up, she makes him. She asks him to sing some Negro spirituals, and this guy is like, it's like hyper educated and stuff, and it's that she wouldn't ask um a white guy of his stature to do that, as a philanthropist. But she was still expecting out of him for him to kind of like shuffle like a slave. So he kind of had to do this thing, and she's so delighted, and you could tell he's really humiliated that he has to do it. And that's kind of what this thing reminds me of. Like she was really transfixed by the pain, or the suffering. She just viewed him as a great sufferer. But yeah, unfortunately, I cannot find that scene. Yeah, so I mean, I thought I'm not crazy about slam poetry in general, but this
We will
sounded as good as
forever
any other
search
slam
for our
poetry.
I want to take a second to thank the MBK Village and the Obama Foundation for giving me such a great opportunity to continue to spread the message. Now, it is my honor to introduce to you a man who needs no introduction. He is the founder of the My Brother's Keepers program. He is a father, lawyer, lecturer, community organizer, and so much more. Born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii, he is the man who changed America forever. It is none other than the 44th president of the United States of America, President Barack Obama.
Man, thank you.
One thing I didn't kind of like about that, you see, like he was on the verge of crying, right? He was on the verge of crying, like to end it, and then his expression just changed, And I'll show you what I mean. Take a look.
Doesn't that make us worth something?
Look.
Tonight, a riot is the language of the unheard.
That's a Martin Luther King quote. And then look, he's about to cry. And he just switches it up.
I want to take a second to thank the MBK.
Yeah, that part I didn't like. That was a little too polished.
To spread the message.
That I did
now,
not like. That's what I mean by like they're training him early about the theater. About the theater of suffering.
Of the My Brother's
Keepers program. I don't like that they're training him in that theater of suffering.
Lawyer, lecturer, and community organizer, and so.
And I don't think it's his fault. I think they've been grooming him to not know better. But y'all see what I'm talking about there, right? That I did not like that. It was a little bit sociopathic. Like he just that's what it is. It's a black theater kids kind of thing. Yeah. Someone else said the same thing. You're on the same. Someone said I bet he's a theater kid. Two of y'all said theater kid. Yeah, huge drama. Damn, you're on the same boat. Oof, yeah. I did not like that. It rang really insincere. But here we go. I'm Barack Obama.
Last few months, the kinds of
And he prepped his country accent really, because I've seen him recently. He hasn't been that country recently, but he to me he kind of brought it back out for this. I think it starts slipping again as he goes on, but
are a hard act to follow. So, I can't wait to see all the great things that you're going to be doing in the future. Good afternoon, everybody, all the participants, all the panelists. Let me start by just acknowledging that we have seen in the last several weeks, last few months, the kinds of epic changes and events in our country that are as profound as anything that I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm now a lot older than planned. I'm going to be 59 soon. And let me begin by acknowledging that although all of us have been feeling,
I totally thought that Zoom
uncertainty,
paid him for this.
disruption,
I totally thought that.
some folks have been feeling it more than others. Most of all, the pain that's been experienced by the families of George and Brianna and Ahmad and Tony and
Yeah,
Sean.
he's
and
very
too many
vague. He's
others
like I said, very profound changes. Like that's
mentioned,
the
those
understatement
that
of the year.
we, thought about during that moment of silence. And to those families who've been directly affected by tragedy, please know that Michelle and I and the nation grieve with you, hold you in our prayers. We're committed to the fight of creating a more just nation in memory of your sons and daughters. And we can't forget that even as we're confronting the particular acts of violence that led to those losses, our nation and the world is still in the midst of a global pandemic that's exposed the vulnerabilities of our healthcare system, but also
I mean, he's saying a whole bunch of
disparate
nothing.
treatment and, as a consequence, the disparate impact that exists in our healthcare system, the unequal investment, the biases that have led to a disproportionate
This
number of.
is so lacking in passion. This is so vague and nondescript. I mean, he's talking about healthcare. This just seems so focus group tested and bland. This is the blandest. Oh, I mean, let's just go on.
Infections and loss of life in communities of color. So,
someone's
in a lot of ways,
pleading rainbow.
what has happened over the last several weeks is challenges and structural problems here in the United States
structural
have
problems
been thrown into high relief. The outcomes, not
Doesn't it
just
seem like he just didn't really prep for this? Like it seemed like he just kind of said, "Let's just see what happens."
of the immediate moments in time, but they're the result of a long history of slavery and Jim Crow and redlining and institutionalized racism that too often have been the plague.
I'm gonna say people saying he's
sin
brushing
of
up
our
his speaking
society.
skills. I was watching his 2004 Democratic National Congress speech, and I watched a lot of his other speeches when I was prepping for that other live stream I did. He's a great speaker. I think what he is like when he's really into something or he's really taking it seriously, like the Democratic National Convention, he spoke his heart out. Plus the teleprompter was probably helping, and a lot of his other speeches that I pulled up when I was showing all those times he was talking bad to black people. I think it's just a matter of how little he cares. I think he just came in and just kind of winged it. Like he has two type ways of speaking, and there's a type where he's like off the cuff or he hasn't really thought it through, and at the time when he's really prepared.
And in some ways, as tragic as these past few weeks have been,
Exactly. He just checked out.
as difficult and scary and uncertain as
because I saw him speak recently.
they've also been an incredible opportunity for people to be awakened to some of these underlying trends. And they offer an opportunity for us.
He still has said nothing
to
yet.
all work together to tackle them, to take them on, to change America and make it live up to its highest ideals.
No Mamba mentality.
And part of what's made me so hopeful is the fact that
I think
so
he's on
many
that
young
lean.
people
He's back in Chicago. He hit that
galvanized
lean,
and
man.
activated and motivated and mobilized.
He missed the lean trend when he was in office.
Because historically, so much of the progress that we've made in our society has been because of young people. Dr. King was a young man when he got involved. Cesar Chavez was a young man. Malcolm X was a young man. The leaders of the feminist movement were young people. Leaders of union movements were young people. The leaders of the environmental movement in this country and the movement to make sure that the LGBT community if they
pan down, he's got a dirty Sprite. I'll tell you right now, he's got a dirty Sprite if they pan down. But someone said he needs some Newports. Yeah, man. He's been talking. He hasn't said anything. He has all life mattered the hell out of the speech already. He brought up freaking every single thing he could ever like he all life mattered the speech before he even got to anything. Like he's kumbaya the hell out of the speech. And you know, I told y'all before, like Black Lives Matter is all lives matter of black people, and this is gonna have a lot of that. You're definitely gonna see it.
And was represented were young people. And so when sometimes I feel despair, I just see what's happening with young people all across the country and the talent and the voice and the sophistication that they're displaying. And it makes me feel optimistic. It makes me feel as if, you know, this country is going to get better. Now, I want to speak directly to the young men and women of color in this country, who, as Plan just so eloquently described,
he said of color. He can't even say black people. He said of color. Like, so he all lives matter, and then at least he didn't say black and brown. Actually, no. Actually, I think black and brown would at least be more specific. He just said of color. It could be anything. By some metrics, Kim Kardashian's of color. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and then this country going to get better. Can y'all do me a favor, because sometimes these go long. It's not easy for me to do this in real time. If y'all, when I do these things, can get into the habit of making timestamps for me, and just when it's done, just drop in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. You know, like just whenever I change the topic that you think is important, just write down the timestamp when it's done. If someone can just drop in the comments, I'll put in the description. It'll be much appreciated. Yeah, but let's keep going.
Have witnessed too much violence and too much death. And too often, some of that violence has come from folks who were supposed to be serving and protecting you.
He's just trying to be so, and this is the thing, he's not running for office for anything. Like, I don't know what he's trying to protect, you know? He's got Netflix deals, making a ton of money. He's got the Wall Street speeches. I saw some articles, I was looking them up, and it said that he's probably about to, his net worth's gonna be at this point 30 times what it was when he came in. So it's like he should be giving less fucks, and it seems like every time he should be making giving less of a fuck, he ends up giving more. So second term, he seemed even more hesitant than the first term. He didn't need a re-election. Now he's like not up for office, and he's 30 times richer, and he's still I don't know. I have no idea. They're saying he's going to have the most profitable post-presidency ever. And there's the author of a book. It's a book about the last 5 presidents. They said that that book is, they predicted he's going to be the first billionaire ex-president ever, as far as like becoming a billionaire off of his ex-presidency, you know. So yeah, someone said I guess he doesn't want his film things. Yeah, I don't know. But if you saw like all the Wine Mom comments and West Wing style comments in the audience, I guess kind of see why. Like, they were all loving this, saying he's so presidential. We miss you. We love you. I was in there trolling. Hold on.
I want you to know that you matter. I want you to know that your lives matter, that your dreams matter. And when I go home and I look at the faces of my daughters, Sasha and Malia, and I look at my nephews and nieces, I see limitless potential that deserves to flourish and thrive. And you should be able to learn and make mistakes and live a life of joy without having to worry about what's going to happen when you walk to the store or go for a jog or are driving down the street or looking at some birds in a park. And so I hope that you also feel hopeful, even as you may feel angry, because you have the power to make things better, and you have helped to make the entire country feel as if this is something that's got to change. You've communicated a sense of urgency.
I don't really know what's the point of doing this.
That is as powerful and as transformative as anything that I've seen.
Sometimes it's the police
in recent years. I want to acknowledge the folks in law enforcement that share the goals of reimagining policing, because there are folks out there who took the oath to serve your communities and your countries, have a tough job, and I know you're just as outraged about the tragedies in recent weeks as are many of the protesters. And so we're grateful.
So basically, he's telling them that
protect and
there's
serve.
as many cops as outraged by what
I've
happened as
been heartened to see those in law enforcement who've recognized, let me march along with these protesters. Let me stand side by side and recognize that I want to be part of the solution. And who've shown restraint and volunteered and engaged and listened, because you're a vital part of the conversation. And change is going to require everybody's participation. Now, when I was in office, as was mentioned, I created a task force on 21st century policing in the wake of the tragic killing of Michael Brown. That task force, which
this is what he's gonna do a lot of. You're gonna see he's doing a lot of tuning his own horn, and he's just tuning his own horn to, I guess, deflect blame. And some people were even in the comments like, you know, all this should happen under you. But he talks about like a lot of stuff. Him and Eric Holder are just gonna be filleting themselves. And also there's gonna be a lot of talks about that's why you need to vote. He's gonna go in full VOTEP mode. He's gonna be in major VOTEP mode. You're gonna see it for yourself. It's the usual disgusting stuff, but here we go.
Activists was charged to develop a very specific set of recommendations to strengthen public trust and foster better working relationships between law enforcement and communities that they're supposed to protect, even as they're continuing to promote effective crime reduction. And that report showcased a range of solutions and strategies that were proven and that were based on data and research to improve community policing and collect better data and reporting.
None of this means anything. Data, improve policing, improve communication, it's all like passive voice, vague language. None of it's pretty good, you know.
Bias and how police were trained and reforms to use the.
He's just throwing out every single piece of jargon that he can.
Force that police deploy in ways that increase safety rather than precipitate tragedy. And that report demonstrated something that's critical for us today. Most of the reforms that are needed to prevent the type of violence and injustices that we've seen take place at the local level. Now, reform has to take place in more than 19,000 American municipalities, more than 18,000 local enforcement jurisdictions.
Okay.
And so as activists and everyday citizens raise their voices, we need to be clear about where change is going to happen and how we can bring about that change. It is mayors and county executives that appoint most police chiefs and negotiate collective
He's still talking those technocratic solutions, those neoliberal solutionism. Yeah, he's talking about reports and data and training and task force, and then he's probably just mentioning implicit bias too.
bargaining agreements with police unions. And that determines police practices in local communities. It's district attorneys and state's attorneys that decide typically whether or not to investigate and
That's
ultimately
exactly what
charge
this is.
those involved in police misconduct. And those are all elected positions. And in some places, they're police community review boards with the power to monitor police conduct. Those oftentimes may be elected as well. The bottom line is, I've been hearing a little bit of chatter in the internet about voting versus protests.
There he goes, votes up time.
Politics and participation versus civil disobedience and direct action.
And this is all about Joe Biden.
This is not a either or. This is a
this is his
both
test. He
bring
failed the
about
test the
real
first
change.
time. He has to prove that he can be a good sheepdog. If he's going to be an influence peddler, he has to prove he can be a good sheepdog. And now he really has to prove it, because now he has to bring his own vice president. It's one thing to be a sheepdog for Hillary Clinton and fail, fresh out of office. You know, like you're still in office, you're fresh in everyone's memory, and you can't deliver the black vote. Now it's your ex vice president, and I think that's why he waited so long to endorse Joe Biden. Like, he's always so worried about impression management and stuff that it should have been a no-brainer from the jump. He should have been endorsing Joe Biden, but he was waiting and seeing. After South Carolina, when the black people came out to vote for him, and he saw it was safe, like, you know, he waited until it was very safe. So he wanted to make sure that he didn't put himself out on a limb until it was a sure thing that he was gonna win. So I think it became safe to come out and endorse Joe Biden. But just the fact that it took him so long to do it, I think is a really bad look. And I know he had his fake excuses, but they weren't convincing. They weren't convincing to me. But yeah, he's gonna go in full vote up mode. And throughout this whole thing, when the comments, because there were live comments, everyone's just like, vote, that's where you gotta vote, you know, and don't let the violent ones give the peaceful ones a bad name. Like, this idea that the people you're protesting against, the judgment, the worth of if the protest is good depends on if the people you're protesting against agree with it. Like, Battle for Algiers would have been a really boring movie under these people. If these people ever reboot it, you know, it'll be just all like outside agitators messing everything up, and there'll be a lot of finger wagging at the Algerians.
change. We both have to highlight a problem and make people in power uncomfortable, but we also have to translate that into practical solutions and laws that can be implemented, and we can monitor and make sure we're following.
And he mentions
up.
none of these.
So,
And
Very quick,
here's the worst thing. He acts like he wasn't president for 8 years. Like, if all this is so easy, why didn't you do it? But then again, he tries to pretend that he does. He brings up things like reports and whatever, but he never actually brings up results. He never says, we brought down the killings 10, 20, 30, 40%. He just says that we had reports and we had committees and we had this, but he doesn't mention any solutions. So if you can pull it off while he was in office, what does it matter now? And he tries to kind of talk like he did something, but they can't give any concretes.
let me just close with a couple of specific things. What can we do? Number one, we know there are specific evidence-based reforms that, if we put in place today, would build trust, save lives, would not show an increase in crime. Those are included in the 21st Century Policing Task Force report. You can find it on obama.org.
So he's doing the same
Number two,
thing that Hillary did. This is
lot
what
of-
these technocrats do. Hillary did this around the debates with Trump, and that's why she got smoked. Where they're like, "We have solutions. Go to our website and you just read a bunch of policy wonk, circuitous bullshit." And yeah, that works with like the egghead crowd. Like maybe like Ezra Klein or Matt Iglesias will go there and read that thing. It's not what people don't want to be told like a website. He didn't even give a website. He just tells them something to Google. You download a PDF, and by the time you're done with that, the speech is over. So he doesn't have to be checked for anything. It's a way to kind of deflect. The reason I know this technique is because Obama defenders do this online. If you argue with them, they'll be like, "Well, if you just check the White House website, you'll see everything he did," and basically they expect you to just go search for this through this whole document, or they'll give you a big PDF, it's like 50 pages, and by the time you look through it, that I've blocked you, or they've dropped a smoke bomb and disappeared. Yeah, so yeah, he did the Google's free for politicians. That's exactly what he did. He hit you with the Google's free. It's not my job to spell it out.
Mayors and local elected officials read and
I mean, just think about what he said. He said, "So what are the solutions? I know you want to have solutions. Well, we had a bunch of solutions and they're online." And moving on.
supported the task force report, but then there wasn't enough follow through. So today I am urging every mayor in this country to review your use of force policies with members of your community.
So he said a quick thing. He said, "We had the solutions. I'm not gonna tell you what the solutions are right now because I don't have the time, but we have solutions and they're in this task force and they weren't followed." So basically, this is him passing the buck in a lot of subtle ways. He's saying, "Hey, we had the shit. It wasn't followed, but if they followed me, America would be fixed right now." But I'm not gonna tell you how really, and that's that. So Google my task force, which I know you're not gonna do. My task force report, which I know you're not gonna do.
And commit to report on planned reforms. What are the specific steps you can take? And I should add, by the way, that the original task force report was done several years ago. Since that time, we've actually collected data, in part because we implemented some of these reform ideas. So we now have more information and more data as to what works. And there are organizations like Campaign Zero and Color of Change and others that are out there highlighting.
Now, these people on Campaign Zero remember I talked about those two TFA people, Deray McKesson and Brittney Packnett, and how they both work for TFA and they got a whole bunch of stuff done for TFA. And them and like one or two other people, they formed Campaign Zero. They formed it during the Obama time. They met with Obama. Deray had met with Obama even before he became known. And after they blew up in Ferguson, they met with Obama. They made Campaign Zero. Everyone kept bothering them online about what are your actual prescriptions? Like, what do you do besides march all day? And after a bunch of badgering, they made a big announcement and they said, "We're meeting with Obama and Hillary and all this stuff." And their big thing was body cams. And everyone pointed out immediately how easy body cams are to get around. Like, that's nothing. He said, "You don't have anything with body cams? You've been like protesting for like all these months, almost a year now, and all you have is body cam." And I haven't heard from them really since. They've been podcasting, they've been doing other stuff. And now that this has come back again, suddenly it's Campaign Zero all over again. You can't stop hearing about it. And we're going to talk about them too. By the way, I couldn't remember the cash prize that Deray and Brittney Packnett won, but I found it. It was $10,000. They won $10,000 a piece for their work in Ferguson from TFA, and they did a lot to help get TFA a foothold in there. TFA, I read the stats. I'm going to read them later, but they did a lot, and I think that's what they were rewarded for, and they kept doing stuff for them. But what are some of the words we have here? We had data reform. Data comes up a lot. They kept saying data over and over again. I said I blackpilled Deray being an agent. Yeah, yeah. He said his line is a essay that you pad with extra words to make the speech count. He's almost done. He's gonna come later. He's gonna come back again later, and I'll jump to it.
What the data shows, what works, what doesn't in terms of reducing incidents of police misconduct and violence. Let's go ahead and start implementing those. So we need mayors, county executives, others who are in positions of power to say this is a priority. This is a specific response. Number 3, every city in this country should be a My Brother's Keeper community because we have 250 cities, counties, tribal nations.
So he's plugging My Brother's Keeper.
This
is basically a commercial for the Obama Foundation.
Color, through programs and policy reforms and public-private partnerships. So go to our website, get working with that because it can make a difference.
And he mentions go to the website again.
And let me just close by saying this. I've heard some people say that you have a pandemic, then you have these protests. This reminds people of the 60s and the chaos and the discord and distrust throughout the country.
Yep.
I have to tell you,
the body cams
although I was very young when you had riots and protests and assassinations and discord back in the 60s. I know enough about that history to say there is something different.
Exactly what he's saying.
You look at those protests, and that was a far more representative cross-section of America out on the streets, peacefully protesting, who felt moved to do something.
He's giving it props. He's giving it props for
seen.
being diverse. I guess had good representation.
That didn't exist back in the 1960s. That kind of broad coalition. The fact that recent surveys have showed that despite some protests having then been marred by the actions of a tiny minority that engaged in violence.
So again, still playing down the Biden's part and imposing respectability on the protests. Like to me, that's a failure. First off, what they're describing, I think is true, but I think it's a failure, if anything, to be told by the powers that be, your protest was great. We really liked how you conducted yourself. That's that. If your protest is doing that, it's not working. Like the person that you're protesting shouldn't be congratulating you on how comfortable your protest made them.
Despite, as usual, that got a lot of attention, a lot of focus. Despite all that, a majority of Americans still think those protests were justified. That wouldn't have existed 30, 40, 50 years ago. There is a change in mindset that's taking place, a greater recognition that we can do better. And that is not as a consequence of speeches by politicians. That's not the result of spotlights in news articles. That's a direct result of the activities and organizing and mobilization and engagement of so many young people across the country who put themselves out on the line to make a difference. And so I just have to say thank you to them and for helping to bring about this moment and just make sure that we now follow through. Because at some
through
point,
on what? That's all he was saying. There's nothing he's saying. Follow through.
Attention
He
moves away.
basically is just basically saying, "Hey, I had everything solved. It was a lack of follow through that caused it." But who didn't follow through? I don't get it. You're a president. What was going on? And basically, I think he's trying to imply that Biden will follow through because Biden's the extension of him. It's. And I was in the chat, and I just kept bringing up stuff. They put me on timeout at one point, but I was bringing up things like Biden just proposed $300,000 to go to the police. Biden said that his solution is to make people shoot people in the leg instead of the heart. That's what he would do, So, I kept saying like what is Biden plan that's going to? I mean, if I was addressed, they would have probably just said, it's in the report. it's on the website. Biden's gonna read the website or something, but they never said what it is about. Because when they say you can exercise your vote, what they really mean is you can vote for Biden, but no one even they never say Biden's name,
Protests
and they never
start to
say what he's
dwindle
gonna do.
in size. And it's very important for us to take the momentum that has been created as a society, as a country, and say, let's use this.
I bet he has never been to his own
finally
website.
have an impact.
He might have been
All
on
right.
it to double check the pictures.
Thank you, everybody. Proud of you
He
guys.
might have gone on it to see, make sure that they got his good side.
I know
maybe.
that we're going to be hearing from a bunch of people who have been on the front lines on this and know a lot more.
Front lines is going to appear a lot.
Proud of it.
On the ground is one thing.
Thank you, Mr. President. For everyone that's watching, the president decided he wanted to stay and be a part of the conversation that's going to be led by Brittney Packnett Cunningham with the.
If I had the time, I would have made a bingo for this, like a bingo card, like different bingo cards, and let y'all play. You could download them, and like the words I had were data, reform, policy, website, on the ground, front lines, change, and some more, but they come up a lot.
Attorney General and other leaders. Before we go into that section,
and the work, doing the work was
pledge
another
that
one.
the president mentioned for mayors. So if you are a mayor, you can go to obama.org and you can take this pledge. And I also want to announce that
so
several mayors have said,
the
sign me up first, and they have
That's
already
weird.
taken the pledge. Mayor de Blasio of New York, Mayor Lightfoot of Chicago, Mayor Frey of Minneapolis, Mayor Bowser of DC, Mayor Breed of San Francisco, and Mayor Keisha Bottoms of Atlanta, all my brother's keeper communities as well. So if you go to that page, you can take the pledge, and we will be posting all the cities and all the mayors that take the pledge.
Yeah.
And
So I don't know what
90
it is.
days, we are going to publicly report out who has taken the pledge and the work that's happening to create real lasting change.
So basically, he's using his
So it is now,
influence peddling, as an influencer, like, hey, everybody trust me. I'm Obama. I'm a sweetheart. So if you want that stamp of endorsement, take my pledge, and that will give you some kind of authenticity. I'm gonna get you viewed as authentic. It's like, what the hell's a pledge? You know what? I found the pledge. It says, take the pledge to address police use of force policies in your city. Then it says start, press enter. So let's take a look at the pledge. Someone said pledge these nuts. Let's take a look at this pledge. I'm a little bit curious. Maybe it's good. Let's see. I'm flying blind. I don't know. This could not be good live streaming. It could be boring. But here, commit to actions. We use cookies. Okay. A call for mayors, city councils, and police oversight bodies to address police use of force policies. The killings, this is brand new because it mentions the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. So there was no pledge that he had already about police brutality. They just whipped this up. And the loss of far too many Black lives to list have left our nation anguished and outraged. Props for saying Black, at least. More than 1,000 people are killed by police every year. Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed than white people. Mayors and other city councils are uniquely positioned to introduce common sense limits on police use of force. That's why the My Brother's Keeper Alliance is calling on mayors to commit the following actions: review your police use of force policies, engage your communities by including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in your review. So I guess tell them good stories and engage them with diverse range of input. Like, just tell me a policy. Like I don't understand. Report the findings of your review to your community and seek feedback. So listen to your community. Like, the community knows what they want. They want to feel like they're in a police state and be treated like shit. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, when rich people have a problem, they don't need to hear so much from the rich people. They pretty much get it right away. Like, they don't have like 50 meetings where like all the rich people get together in a room and have to sit there and be like, rich people just say like, fix this shit now. and the shit gets fixed. Somehow they get what needs fixing right away when rich people need it. So sometimes when it's poor people problems, as simple as they are, and rich people have like complex problems. They'll be like, I need this tax code change. I need these 5 zoning things changed. This thing has to be shut down because I have a business coming up, and if this thing opens up, it's an eyesore. It's gonna change my business. There's too many homeless people here. NIMBY, not in my backyard. And also, these are different tax codes that need changed. And here's all this lobbying, and here's this. And they don't have to have like 50 meetings or whatever, or sit down like they're just dumb and they can't figure it out. But and they get it done on a really quick timeline. Someone says like this person needs this, you're gonna get it done. But with poor people, it's like, can you just stop fucking killing us because we're black? I don't think we understand you. Like, we hear you, we see you. Let's do 50 more town halls to figure it out. It's like they make it the most complicated thing in the world. Like, stop beating us. We see stop beating us. Do you mean like stop beating you? Or do you mean like just beat you on Sundays? Like what are you trying to say? Like they make it seem like it's the most complicated thing. And that it's not their job to tell you what they're gonna do. You have to keep telling them, and they want to hear your pain. Like, how much does it hurt when we beat you? Stop beating you. Tell us how you feel when we beat you. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we can stop beating you, but tell us some more. Like, what bones did we break? Man, those beatings sound really bad. Are we gonna stop the beatings? No, but you know, cry a little bit. Let us hear some more. Yeah, it's ridiculous. True. So, yeah, and then the following starts. I just look how easy it is. It's just like, you ever see that South Park where they have those gnomes, and it's like one, um, build this, two, question mark, question mark, question mark, three, profit. That's what this is. It's like, review your police use of force policies, engage your communities, which means just have a lot of time wasting meetings. Where you sit there listening to them. And so how many different ways do you want the meetings to stop? you know oh, as in just don't beat you. I don't know if we can do that. Do you have any other? Then report the findings of the review to your community, which is gonna be just much nothing. And then jump to reform the police use of force policies. Like, wow, it's just that easy. Just so basically, like, it all sounds good, but listen to what it's really saying, right? Right. We're gonna really dumb this down. Okay, look at what the policies are about beating and killing you. And the policies will be what they are. Whatever. Go to the community and ask for their stories and get a diverse range of input about all the ways that they don't like how they're beaten. Then ask for more feedback from the community, and then just suddenly reform everything. And then that's it. Like, you made it sound so easy. What about police unions? What about how they always find a way to get around everything? Um, all the ways that police unions kind of get around accountability. It's the most Pollyannish thing, you know. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that one? Yeah, just step four, reform it. Like, step one, review the policy. Step two, talk to the community. Step three, talk to the community some more. Step four, reform it. Yeah, so okay. And it's not like their use of force policies are gonna say beat the shit out of them. Like, they probably already have some decent things written down. You're just getting to follow it. Like, what's the point of reviewing it? It's not like you're gonna review it and just be like, oh, I see the problem now. This policy says beat the shit out the niggers. Like, damn, when he saw that was it's a good thing somebody finally thought to review the policy. And then they go to community, and it's like, well, hey, their policy says beat the shit out the niggers. Then they're like, really? Well, we don't like that. Well, let's ask 50 people. Yeah, we don't like that either. Then you just go and tell them, hey, maybe you shouldn't have that policy in there. Then you just reform the policy. And now it's gonna say, don't beat the niggers, or put some Nerf sponge around the baton to kind of like lessen the bruises. How did you feel when you kicked the suspect while he was handcuffed? This is like the most focus group tested. This is like if you ever work in a corporation, they use PowerPoint slides to just put the most non-info in a meeting. Like PowerPoint slides, if you've ever worked in the corporate world, it'll just be like maximize inputs to generate peak efficiencies that lead to optimal whatever, and then they'll just be like a picture of a rocket on the power, like shit like that. It makes no sense. That's what this thing is. This is consultant speak. There's probably, hold on, yes, stakeholder engagement, shit like that. The McKinsey special. What's the department policy on phone booking? Well, clearly, it probably says like rule number 34B, phone book the shit out the suspects. Once you review the policy, then you can see, oh wait, it was that damn policy that says phone book the shit out of people. And then you just how did you get approved on the police brutality deck? I would love to see them. So anyway, here is the pledge. First off, can anybody take this? Because if this is for mayors, let's see. Let's put New York City. This is what happens. Does it say de Blasio's being here already? Okay, so I entered as the mayor of New York City, guys. I pledged to. Oh, it's the same 4 things. It's just I get to pledge the same 4 things. Okay, I'm going to review. So basically, I guess no mayors yet have reviewed the police use of force policies in the community. And no mayors have talked to their community yet. No mayors have reported the findings of the review, and the last. Oh, damn, that's what's going on. The mayors didn't read these 4 steps. Fuck. The mayors did not read. I didn't hack into the mainframe, motherfucker. I hacked into the matrix. I fucking hack into the matrix, boy. I'm Neo right now. Oof, yo, I'm fucking anonymous, bro. Yo, I am a hacker. Oof. Someone said, put that you're the mayor of Whoville. I just love that it just open for any mayors to yeah. And then if I'm a community member, but I thought it was for mayors. Why is there a part about if I'm a community member? You can go to the Leadership Conference Education Fund, the Police Use of Force Project. There's a lot of stuff on here. So far, it's like nothing. It's like the inception of empty. Like remember Inception is like a dream within a dream. This is like it's the inception of impotence, or like the Russian doll. Like you just keep opening up this Russian doll in this website. You just keep getting sent to more consultant speak nonsense. Okay, so I'm looking at the Police Use of Force project. So I'm hacking in, bro. Like guys, I am hacking in, and I've just gone to the next. Some of the page is very smooth. Yeah, it's easy to be smooth when you have nothing on it. It's just there's no graphics, there's no information. So I've hacked into the project, right? So I took the pledge as the mayor of Whoville. I learned the 4 steps, right? And now this thing is a very bare bones website. Like it's amazingly minimalist. So now here's a police use of force projects. I guess this is what you have to go and find out. How police use of force policies can help to end police violence. Failing to require officers to de-escalate situations. Oh, so they weren't required to de-escalate situations. None of these guys are like raging alcoholic crazy people. Is that no one told them, hey, de-escalate. Like these people think everything can be solved with a rule. Yeah. Websites that's smooth. Yeah, espionage. You know what I am right now? I'm Ethan Hunt in the first Mission Impossible. With a computer. I'm like suspended from the ceiling with a keyboard, just getting in. Allowing officers to choke or strangle civilians. So I guess these are policies. I guess this is supposed to be the kind of policies that you'll find. So when you review the policies, when you do that first step, review the policies, you'll see things like, but the thing is, a lot of police things already have chokeholds banned. Failing to require officers to intervene and stop excessive force. Failing to restrict officers from shooting at moving vehicles. Failing to develop a force continuum. So basically, like a chart of, like, this is like a Myers-Briggs test, whatever. Failing to require officers to exhaust all other reasonable means. This is just rules, but none of this is actual punishments, right? Like, if someone said it's a template, a Squarespace. Someone said it's a Square-based template. As citizens, we need a safe word. Yeah, this thing is nothing. This thing is nothing at all. Failing to require officers to give a verbal warning when possible before shooting a civilian. You know what's funny about this stuff? I don't have it handy. If I had read this before, I would have had it handy. But have you guys seen those videos where they catch people doing stuff? They'll do stuff, right? They had one recently. They'll say, "Stop struggling. Stop struggling." And the person's like, "I'm not struggling." And they'll say, "Stop struggling." And these cops, they have a lot of videos where you do this. They'll act like you're struggling so that they can shoot you. And during the protests, I saw this video. I'm not going to waste your time looking for it, right? Yeah, they keep yelling, "Stop resisting." Like, this stuff is all hackable. Like, if you say issue a verbal warning, there's places where they do that. And what the cops just do is they'll just keep issuing warnings like you're resisting and you're not. And then they caught the people saying it while the people weren't resisting. There was a clip from the protest where there's a weapon on the ground and the cop was wrestling with him. And this is what the cop was doing. The cop, I wish I had this handy. Maybe I could find it because I think I could find it with the right search. What the cop was doing was he was wrestling with the guy on the ground, and the weapon was on the ground, and the cop was trying to act like he was wrestling, but he was trying to move the black guy's hand to the weapon, and the black guy was clearly trying to pull his hand away from the weapon, and he was like, "Stop going for the weapon! Stop going for the weapon!" And he's pushing the guy's hand toward the weapon, and the people are like screaming like, oh wait, here we go. I found it. Hold on, check this out. Like, to give an example of why these things won't work. And but the one thing that's missing from all this, if you notice, is consequences. They're just giving like scoldings you can give the cops or like rules that they could ignore, but none of it says like, here's what'll happen to the cop. So if you look, so if you look what they're trying to do here. Look, check at his hand. He's trying to put the baton in his hand. You see that?
Get that. Don't hit him with that fucking stick.
See, he dropped it on the floor and then tried to put his hand on it. Did y'all see it?
Get that.
First, the guy wouldn't take it.
That's what y'all did.
Right? He's trying to hand it to him. Then he drops it on the floor. He drops it right here.
With that fucking stick,
drops it. And then he takes his hand. He tries to put his hand on top of it. And he keeps trying to put his hand on top of it.
Get the fucking... Oh my God.
And now he's punching his hand. He put it in his hand. And he took several times trying to put it in his hand. And once it was in his hand, then he started beating his fist and trying to break his fingers because now he said it was in his hand. There's all types of stuff like this. They pulled up a bunch of videos. Everything that's in this thing that Obama's has on his page, all of it is stuff that you can get around. It's all like what this thing should have is it should have like tribunals, what's going to happen, mandatory sentences, independent things where you guarantee people will face jail time, things to kind of maximize the penalties. These things, this site has no penalties. It's just, so look at this. You say failing to require officers to report each time they use force or threaten to use force. So yeah, they'll just find a way to get around that. require officers to give a verbal warning. So in that video, they were giving a verbal warning. They were like, no, stop going for that, and they were pushing it in his hand. And honestly, because the girl was watching and recording, I think they could have gotten way worse. But they, yeah, yeah. This is another thing. Go after the pension. And the way the pension thing is works is that whenever someone mentions the pension thing, people get really heated. Somebody said that they told their cop friend about the pension thing, and they flew off the handle. Like that scares the shit out of them. He could have at least the site has a donate button. What's going on, Daniel? Former guest of the show. Check him out. Yeah, yeah. So lots of hiring freeze, no overtime. Not this Fisher Price my first manifesto shit. Like, what is it? So this is the whole thing. Look how bad this thing is. This is some straight up, like someone says, Squarespace template, and there's more graphic than, yeah. So I don't know. That is, so basically that's what he was telling you to go to his site and see. So you can see why he didn't have the gall to say it in his he couldn't say anything there. And then here's some more technocratic shit. It's more technocratic shit. Because it's easy to just go through his website and take everything at face, not go through his speech and take everything at face value. But let's see. So here's the report, right? So the report is here. We reviewed the use of force. So he's done step one. I guess when you're the mayor and you take the pledge, now you can go and read his pledge and read his report about your city as if you on the ground don't know what your cops do better than he does. So you can download the report or read the full study. And they had a nice technocratic USA Today type graphic. So you notice 8 things that he has. He just has every city and which ones meet which things. Now, what I'd like to know is, does he have any proof that the more cities that follow these things, the less stuff that happens? That's what I would love to know. Yeah, yeah. There's nothing about going at the unions. There's no. It's a total toothless thing, and it's just yeah, it's just a fucking Excel sheet. Yeah, it's yes, yeah. So this is what he came out to do. Let's see what cities are in here. Let's see. So Minneapolis was the last one. Minneapolis meets 4 out of the 8. Um, Tennessee, where wait, how about Louisville? Louisville meets 4 out of the 8. Which ones have the most? Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's no. All it does is just tell you how many police departments um follow how many of these things. There's an analysis section. He claims that they reviewed the extent to which um police killings, the extent to which the police. This thing is just a bunch of wonky bullshit. Like, okay, now there's actually more stuff in there, but it's all like convoluted all over the place. And then there's learn more solutions, sign up to get involved. Let's see what more solutions are. Uh yeah, Gavin asked what's the worst. The way that the thing is set up is very convoluted and wonky. It's just a million and one graphics. And I feel like the way that it's so convoluted with so many charts, it's to kind of, what I'm going to do is, I don't want to bore you guys and like sit there while I go through this. So I'm going to look at that when I'm not live streaming, and then if anything's interesting there, I'll come back, right? But yeah, I said it was put up last minute. Yeah, I think so. The politicians are very afraid. Yeah, yeah. I better vote for someone smart enough like Sleepy Joe to. It's not even about being smart enough so much as they make it unnecessarily complicated. That's the thing. I mean, convoluted, not even complicated, convoluted. Like just say, just spit it out. Like it's like very much consultant speak. You know, consultants got to earn that six-figure bill, so they make the simple things. So anyway, here is more solutions, and there's an option to download this graphic, the Joint Campaign Zero graphic. So I guess it's easily shareable on social media. This it's like a infographics are a good sign that there's a lot of bullshit going on. But it says end broken windows policing, community oversight, limit use of force. Let's look at the same thing. It's so easy. Independently investigate and prosecute, community representation, fair police union contracts. I don't know what that means. There's demilitarization. Let me hit demilitarization. I guess you can get deeper. Okay, demilitarization. But I thought the militarization ramped up under Obama. You can find out what your department got from the. There's a lot of information here, but there's not actual practical ways to implement anything. So you can see how much money your department got in military money, but you don't really. There's no real way to make it actionable. Um, I'm gonna end with this soon because it's driving me crazy. This is the police union. This is fair. This is the first mention. So I had to go about 4 or 5 levels into the inception to get to the police contracts, the union part. These unions have used their influence to establish unfair protections for police officers. Okay, I'll give them credit for talking about that. In their contracts with local, state, blah blah blah. These provisions create one set of rules for police and other civilians and make it difficult for police chiefs or civil oversight structures to punish police officers who are unfit to serve. First off, it creates the illusion police chiefs want to punish their officers. Learn about how police union contracts help officers avoid accountability here. So there's another level to the inception that you have to click. But then it says, here are the solutions. Remove barriers to effective misconduct investigations and civilian oversight. But that's what they already set up here. So, okay. Um, allow. So I guess you have to remove parts in the officer's bill of rights that allow officers to wait 48 hours or more after being interrogated after an incident. Prevent investigators from pursuing other cases of misconduct revealed during an investigation. Stop things that prevent an officer's name or picture from being released to the public. Stop things that prohibit civil. Get it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. It's. I'm gonna show you one. I'm gonna show you one last thing, and then I'm done. Someone said credit score drops. Oh, I think I had the wrong screen up, so I don't think you guys saw all the Inception stuff I was doing. My bad. I just realized I had the wrong screen up. Yeah, while I was talking, I was going into the Inception over and over again. I'll show you guys. Sorry about that. You guys didn't see what I was looking at, but here is the last Inception thing that I found. Where this to me seems to be like where you would have the most dangerous stuff. This should have been up top about attacking the police unions. They put it in a bunch of one-on-one basic stuff at the top, and you have to just keep digging and digging to get to something substantive. So they get to police union contract review, and then it's just more infographics and data. It's just one giant infographic. It's incredibly wonky. This is not meant for like a regular Joe Blow who just wants answers. You just keep going into yeah. Someone said this page is really Squarespaces. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of not letting you see all the pages because I thought that was live. So you guys, but if you go through it, every page is like that. It's just more and more charts, infographics, giant graphics, bullet point list, and yeah. So I don't really know. I mean, they don't say how, because the thing is, police unions have a lot of power. Like, it's not like these mayors haven't thought. See, this is the problem with this stuff. It's not like the mayors haven't thought, hey, a good way to hit them would be the police unions. You know, it's like the police unions have a lot of power, and they will get freaking killed if they go too hard against them. Even like look at Mayor De Blasio. They fucking doxed his daughter, and he had to come out and talk nice about them after they just doxed his daughter. You know? Yeah. So it's like, hey, Ramil, how's it going? Yeah. So it's like this is what happened. David Gonzalez is right. It approaches a useful point after like 8-9 levels down into the inception, but when you get to the useful point, it's just more policy gobbledygook. And there's a lot of like data that's technically true, but there's nothing actionable or solutions. So it's like, okay, so we know all these things are there. How do you get a mayor to do all this stuff? But here's the other thing that's even more important. Where is Joe Biden on any of this? And what are Joe Biden's plans to do all this stuff? What are his actionable things? And does he have a timeline? Like, is it specific? Does they have specific things? Nothing's specific. Are they measurable? Do you have some kind of measurable things? Are they actionable? Is it does it have a timeline? There's none of that. So it's all just a giant mess. And I'm gonna jump back to the thing here. It's pretty terrible. Yeah. The only thing I've seen Joe Biden say is that he's going to give the cops $300,000, and he wants them to start shooting people in the leg instead of the heart, even though the leg has a giant artery that will uh, have you bleed out in like a minute.
My pleasure to introduce a friend, an activist, an educator, a writer, an NBC and MSNBC News contributor,
Now,
a lifelong activist and member of the Ferguson Uprising, co-founder of Campaign Zero.
this girl's the co-founder of Campaign Zero, along with Deray and some other people, and she's the one of TFA people. Her and Deray are the two main TFA people who basically helped hijack the movement on the ground, and then helped TFA get like nice, helped them get nice contracts and get herself like a job, which she spun off to like another um cushy job. I think the Obama administration, and DeRay got a platform himself too, and they both got an award from TFA as well as $10,000 each for their work on the ground in Ferguson. And so they brought her out here, and this is what I'm saying. Where I don't think Obama knows the situation on the ground anymore. A lot of people aren't fucking with these people anymore, and Obama still thinks this is like he's still using the old plans. You know what I mean? Yeah, a lifelong member of the Ferguson uprising. Yeah, none of the people in Ferguson fuck with her. Yeah, yeah, it's Oh yeah, this is another thing. Coleman had to apologize for going too hard at the police today. He tried to do it in private, but demanded a public apology. Yeah, so just saying the obvious isn't enough, you know? Yeah, I should take some notes from a set design. Yeah, that's true. I appreciate your input on that. And let's see. Give me a second.
A policy platform to end police violence and co-host of Pod Save the People. Previously, she was an appointed member of the Ferguson.
So one of her gigs now, D-Ray and her are on the Pod Save America Network, Crooked Media, I guess it's called. They're down with that.
Commission and President Obama's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. Today, Campaign
she's on Obama's task force as well.
Zero, of which Brittney is a co-founder, launched the campaign #8can'twait, an advocacy.
8 can't wait. Now, you see what you said, the 8 can't wait? That 8 can't wait are the 8 things I just read. So she's behind the 8 can't wait. And she's behind the 8 can't wait. And Justin, I don't know what you're thanking me for, but I guess you're welcome. Yeah, well, the other people in Ferguson just got killed. That's it. The real, uh, the outside accommodators, the opposite of outside agitators, the outside accommodators, parachuted out. You know, they came in to surrender on behalf of the people who didn't ask them to show up and cut deals and dissipate the energy. And the people left. Like six of them, six of them died. So that's that. So that's the answer to that question. But yeah, those 8 things that I read before on his website at about the 3rd level of inception. Um, that's the 8 can't wait. Before their big thing was just body cams and like the original campaign zero. Let's see if I can find the original campaign zero from when Obama was in office. Um, see if I can find it. But yeah, their main thing at first was body cams, and a lot of people showed them all the science and notes on body cams, and it was I'm going to show you the original campaign zero thing before they had the I want to show you something real quick because I remember this because a bunch of us were getting on them on Twitter and they were getting mad. I got blocked by all of them, but campaign zero, like this is like when they first started. They first started when everyone on Twitter just started bothering them about, okay, Deray, what are you doing besides just going from protest to protest and tweeting that Beyonce followed you? Like, what are you doing? Like, there's only so many times you can say, I love my blackness and yours, and watch whiteness work. Like, okay, you're good at what's it called? I don't know how to pronounce that word, but yeah, you're good at naming things, but what are you gonna do? So then they had this big thing, and then they got roasted even harder because they were so silly. But yeah, body cams from the police. Uh, while not a cure-all, body cams and cell phone video illuminated, uh, nearly every case where a police officer was charged with a crime for killing a civilian in 2015 relied on evidence showing the officer's action. Notice he only said charged. He didn't say actually convicted. So that says a lot because uh, all the cameras and stuff do at best is get you charged, So policy solutions, body cameras, the right to record police. Okay, but there's been a lot of people caught on. There's been a lot of people who've gotten around body cameras by covering them up or turning them off. And there's been a lot of people who have been caught on camera, like Eric Garner, who they still got off. I mean, the right to record police theoretically would only help maybe someone like the guy who filmed Eric Garner dying. But the problem is, even when they came after him, they didn't come after him based on some rules about the filming with the camera, right? They came after him with some other trumped up bullshit charges. So even if you give the people the right to record, they'll still find another thing to. They'll say that they thought you had a gun on you, or they'll say something they really want to fuck with you. You know? Yeah, there's nothing. The problem with body cams is they need to be triggered on. They mute audio for the first 30 seconds. So yeah, yeah. So I mean, after like that minimal amount of prescriptions that they had to like be forced to, because a lot of us were really on their ass about just posturing and dissipating energy and having no real policy solutions outside of white ally workshops and getting themselves contracts and appointments. That was all they came up with. So now they're back a couple years later because it's a hot topic again with 8 can't wait. And the 8 can't wait is what I showed you before. Um, so let's see.
Advocacy campaign to push mayors across America to adopt 8 use of force policies that together can reduce police violence by upwards of 70%. Just to moderate this conversation with President Obama.
I have no idea how they got the 70% thing. Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea how they got the 70% thing. I would love to know, but I have no idea. I'll look into it, and if I
and our
find
other
out, I'll
incredible
tell you.
leaders. Please welcome Brittney Packnett Cunningham.
Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you, President Obama, for gathering this conversation in this moment of intense grief, but hopefully intense purpose. We are here together to talk, to have a family conversation. And you may be watching this and have come here because you are experiencing that grief and you need some community in which to do that. And you're hoping that we can hold you up to the light. You may be here because, like me, you are girded in the strength of your ancestry, and you know you come from people just like I do, who did far more with far less and are sure that we can win in this moment and everyone after it. However you have come here, why you have come here, we're glad that you're here, because we're here to get honest, to get clear, most importantly, to get to work. So that even the heartening moments of seeing you people raise their voices, or even in the moments where a police officer might take a knee, that momentary action might turn into true systemic and lasting change. We have so many brilliant voices that have been gathered. And as we listen to these guests, we'll all be able to better understand how we got to this moment and how we seized our own power to get through it. Before we get started, like Michael, I want to make sure to lift up the names of the people who brought us here, because it wasn't just the former president, though we're deeply grateful. It was George Floyd, a father in Minneapolis. It was Breonna Taylor, a life-saving EMT on the front lines in Louisville. It was Sean Reed, a friend and a brother in Indianapolis. It was Tony McDade, a Black trans man who loved life in Tallahassee, Florida. Okay. And though it wasn't from an officer's bullet, we are having this conversation, of course, in the shadow of Ahmaud Arbery, a son from Georgia, and Nina Pop and Ayanna Dior, two Black trans women who were killed by systemic hatred that comes against intersectionally marginalized people in this country every single day. Frankly, there are too many names to list because, as the president has already said, we have been at this, unfortunately, for a long time. So that means that there is indeed work to do, and now we're going to get to do it. So, Attorney General Holder, I actually want to start with you. I was raised always to be an activist. So frankly, if you ask my mom, this is the only life I've ever known. But I came into the work specifically of fighting against the surge of police violence as it relates, especially
this was happening.
To systemic racism in 2014
the room with
when Mike
Darren
Brown was
Seals.
Killed in Ferguson, Missouri, just a few minutes from my own home. And you came to Ferguson, and as you know, there were thousands. Because
I just get really annoyed that none of the real Ferguson activists, including the 6 that died, get named. So I just kept dropping the RIP of yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. They forget Tamir Rice. Oh man, Manny Hazard said he can't take it anymore. It's muting. Yeah, sorry. I shouldn't put y'all through this. I mean, you guys get the point. Eric Holder comes on, and Eric Holder, I'm gonna give you guys the Cliff Notes version because I'm getting tired of hearing it too. There's a lot of all lives matter talk. There's a lot of intersectionality talk.
Thousands, literally thousands of brave and mighty protesters, just like the ones we're seeing outside right now.
This is the last thing I want to put. I just want to put how Eric Holder just basically is bigging himself up.
Organizers were on the ground, leading for change and making the entire world pay attention. I want to know what you learned from those grassroots activists. What have you carried from those conversations?
And this is the other thing that they keep doing, is what you're talking about. It's always, what did you learn? What did you learn? And it's like
Ahmaud Arbery,
they pacify you by just keep telling
Nina
you.
Pop and Ayanna Dior, two Black trans women who were killed by systemic hatred that comes against intersectionally marginalized people in this country every single day. Frankly, there are too many names to list because, as the president has already said, we have been at this, unfortunately, for a long time. So that means that there is indeed work to do. And now we're going to get to do it.
Do the work.
So, Attorney General Holder, I actually want to start with you. I was raised always to be an activist. So frankly, if you ask my mom, this is the only life I've ever known. But I came into the work specifically of fighting against the surge of police violence as it relates especially to systemic racism in 2014 when Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri, just a few minutes from my own home. And you came to Ferguson. And as you know, there were thousands, literally thousands of brave and mighty protesters, just like the ones we're seeing outside right now, Those protests and organizers were
And you're not
on
going to
the
mention
ground
any of those
looking for change
protesters
and making
by
the
name.
entire world pay attention. I want to know what you learned from those grassroots activists. What have you carried from those conversations in Ferguson with you through to the work that you then and that you're doing now?
She said it.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you again, and thank you,
The
President
reason I
Obama,
wanted to show
for
this before we
convening
end
us
is
here
because
today.
all he does is
I
just kind
remember
of make
back
excuses for
in
himself.
2014, I remember meeting with the president. We were on vacation and talking about whether or not I should go to Ferguson. It was a risky thing. Didn't know exactly how people would react
so heroic
to my presence, but we made the determination that I would go. And I think the thing that struck me the most was there were a few things that really got me. I mean, there were young people who were there and who were unbelievably impressive, who were in a lot of ways directing the actions that you saw on the streets. You saw a community that was in anguish, and there was a commonality with regard to the things that they were concerned about. I was really struck by the fact that people consistently talked about the way in which people of color were unfairly treated by the criminal justice system. And there was a genuine desire by people to make things better. It wasn't all about just complaining. There was a genuine desire to work, to make things better. And I left there actually heartened by what I saw, both in terms of the reaction that I got. People were extremely
no talk about his prescriptions of what had to be done, no passion.
But also
it means like he's visited a plant.
That,
you know, he was a manager, just visited a plant.
Invested some time, if we invested some federal resources, that we would be in a position using the great leaders that we met there, those young people who we met there, to make life in Ferguson better, and then use that as an example of what was possible in the rest of the country.
So, as the president reminded us, this is not about an either or question, right? One of my favorite things to remind people, as President Obama has already done, is that this is not about policy or protest. This is about policy and protest. And that we know, as Dr. King and so many others throughout history taught us, is that protest is actually what creates the pressure so that the policy can get passed. Similarly, we are in a long-term game and a short-term game here. That while we are dealing with radical imagination
I think I was muted and I didn't realize. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys heard this part. I think I might have muted myself. But yeah, what I was saying is he was saying how he went down there, and he first makes it sound so brave, but he says that he saw all these people on the ground and whatever, and he saw people he could work with. And what's interesting is he talks about all the protesters, but none of the ones that he gets, none of the ones that he finds are the people who were already on the ground. All the people are people who just happen to be outside accommodators. And some of them are in this video right now. Some of them have worked with the president since, and some of them were even on the White House logs before Ferguson even kicked off. There's stories that Deray was on the White House logs. It kind of shows, like first, there's no passion in what Eric Holder is saying. It's just patting himself on the back, act like he's so brave for going down there. And then, you know, he says he's on the ground, he's had thousands of people. But of course, none of the people I've mentioned, any of the ones who were actually kicking it off, who started it first, who have the community roots, who died, no names meant. And he says like he saw people he can work with. And to me, that's kind of like he saw the co-opters, even if the ones that he himself sent. But let's see.
Imagining what public safety can look like, even beyond police in our communities, we also have to make sure that people are safe now. In your role as Attorney General, you did a lot of that work in addressing people's
now here it
safety
goes.
Right
this is
now.
him just.
So can you tell us what you learned
up.
that was instructive for this moment, particularly as you engaged in pattern and practice investigations and consent decrees once if situations like this happened in communities, and once we saw the kind of uprisings that we did all over the country when you were still
This
in
is
office?
them saving their legacies.
Well, I think one of the key things that people have to understand is that there's not a tension between justice and having fair treatment and public safety. You can keep people safe and also have a better, more equitable criminal justice system. I mean, I'm not going to get too boastful here, but,
Not get too
for the first
boastful.
time in 40 years during the Obama administration, we reduced the number of people who were incarcerated in the federal system and also lowered the crime rate. Again, there is not that tension. You can make things better in terms of community and police relationships and keep people safe at the same time. And so what we tried to do was come up with ways in which we could look at what we thought were
Okay,
the
all he's gonna do is
problems,
brag. Let me just jump ahead real
people of
quick.
this nation, as opposed to the perceptions of them, the stereotypes of them.
What I hear you is saying is that being able to live, being able to breathe, not having anyone's foot on your neck is not actually a radical idea at all.
First
that
off,
it
for a
is
town
what
hall, they should
everybody
have
is
someone at
owed.
least
Thank you so much,
semi-adverse,
Attorney
even
General
fake
Holder, for
adverse. Like
joining
this
us.
is just
I want to move now
such a
to
softball.
Philippe
Everything.
Cunningham, who is a councilman from the city of Minneapolis, where so much of this is centered. Minneapolis is really ground zero in so many ways, as it
This
was
person
home
is a
to
trans man.
George
They brought a
Floyd
trans
and his
man
family.
on. They're a
Philippe,
politician.
I have so many questions for you, but first, I want to know how you're doing and what is happening on the ground in Minneapolis. I see here on the Zoom call my friend Deion Jones, who is peacefully protesting in Los Angeles when he was hit with the rubber bullet. We've seen so many images of that kind of unnecessary confrontation, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are coming from Minneapolis. So how is home? How is the home team doing? And what do we outside of Minneapolis need to understand about what's going on the ground?
Yes,
On the ground, it comes up a
thank you
lot.
so much for having me. Thank you for that question. I too just want to start off with naming that I'm here today because of the strength of my ancestors and elders who came before me
Ancestors comes
fighting
up
the
a lot.
fight
Put
to
down the
make my
bingo list.
existence and work as an elected official possible. So on the ground in Minneapolis, folks are mobilizing
On
on a
the
scale
ground.
we've never seen before, and a diverse coalition, a very diverse coalition of folks is emerging demanding justice, not only for George Floyd, but justice in how the city of Minneapolis protects its residents. What we are seeing right now from folks.
I don't know. Is there anything else? There's a lot more fuckery in this, but it'll take forever. I'm tired of it. I'm sorry. I spent too much time in it already, and yeah, it was very long. But these were the main words that from the bingo. They're gonna do a second one, and I want to see if they do it again. But yeah, these were, I think, the main words. I forgot ancestors. Ancestors came up a lot, but yeah, I think when I watched it, those are the main words that I got. So yeah, if you want to play the bingo next time, just take down those words. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. Someone asked what are the credentials. I don't know, but I just want to talk about some stuff real quick to close it out. Actually, there's some more stuff I want to talk about real quick. On Black Agenda Report, they have a lot of good. They have a lot of good articles about. I'm gonna put into the description. I'm not gonna read all this now, but I have about like 6 or 7 links about Teach for America, Deray, all these people. But I'll give you a quick look at them now, just so you can see. This is a good one by Orchestrated Pulse. The movement lives in Ferguson. Teach for America, Black Leadership, and Disaster Capitalism by Drew Franklin. And he goes through a lot of the mess up stuff about Teach for America and how Deray was a plant, and then look at these local politicians in Ferguson, like after it's all done, right? After it's all done, I see Antonio French, 2014, with schools still canceled in Ferguson. TFA as St. Louis has set up classes for kids at the local library. So when the riots closed down everything on the ground on Ferguson and the protests, um, whatever was happening down there, the public schools had to close, and the TFA people set up a temporary school there at the local library, which was their foothold to expand even more. And then Michelle Rhee, I think she's the one who did Waiting for Superman, which was something to big up a movie to big up charter schools. She responded, "What a beautiful sight," you know. And TFA does a lot of political alliances with a lot of policymakers, like former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and DC's ousted Mayor Adrian Fenty, to seize control of school districts and impose the charter school model. But the long game, what it calls the second half of the movement, is to develop its core members into a leadership class of its own. Kopp explains, I think the way to understand Teach for America is as a leadership development program. We need political leaders, policymakers, doctors, lawyers, and probably more business leaders than we are producing right now. In the long run, we need to build a leadership force of people. We have a whole strategy around not only providing folks with the foundational experience during their 2 years with us, but also then accelerating their leadership in ways that are strategic for the broader reform movement. Now, what does this mean? Right? I want to show you guys understand what this means. What this means is you spend 2 years with them. That's nice. That's fine and dandy. But they want you to have the right pedigree. They want you to be Ivy educated. They want you to be sociable. They want you to be ambitious. What they hope is that after your 2 years with them, you get somewhere where you have power, where you have influence. You can feed that back to them. You can come back and hook them up. Um, so so look what they have now. They have produced. They sent Deray down to Ferguson. You know how I say he left a six-figure job. I'm like, that's really weird. How do you leave a six-figure job to go protest, uh, just like that? And then the place that you left gives you an award for leaving and protesting. Like, no, you went there and protested for them. You know, that's what place is going to reward you for that unless your job was to do that. You know, um, and you have another person on presidential task force who might end up back in there again with Biden. So yeah, they blatantly say in their mission statement that they want to get people, they want to create gatekeepers, they want to create people of influence to feed back into them. And I'm gonna put links to all these in the description if y'all want to read them, because I don't want people to think I have my tinfoil hat on. By developing core members into leaders committed to its ideology, TFA has disguised its centrality in the education reform movement, spawning a disorienting web of interconnected but nominally independent foundations. These organizations, near all of them founded or directed by TFA alumni, work together in coordinated campaigns to dissolve school boards, bust teachers' unions, and secure public funding for charter schools. And this thing makes a lot of connections. There's a lot of links in this. So if you go to this, you'll get a lot more links. But it says the most notorious of Teach for America's political operatives is alumni Michelle Rhee, who was the same person that was just shown cheering on Antonio French, the local Ferguson politician, for bigging up Teach for America's intrusion into St. Louis. You know, that wasn't an innocent bystander. She was involved in it. In her last year as chancellor of DC Public Schools, was the hero of the 2000 feature film Waiting for Superman, masterpiece of modern propaganda to sell charter schools. And an internal memo, this wasn't made to be made public last year in a story for The Nation, and there's a link in the article to that, paints a frightening picture of TFA's outside political power. According to the memo, an unnamed source inside the Department of Ed tipped off the organization that TFA alumni and Nation reporter Alexandra Hutnik filed a large FOIA request on Teach for America, indicating that she was unlikely to portray TFA in a positive light. So basically, a TFA alumni worked at the Nation, and she was actually, I guess it's like Scientology. She was breaking free from the cult, and she was doing a FOIA request, which meant she wasn't going to just follow what they gave her. She was going to do the whole thing. She went off the what do they call it? in Scientology. It's called going clear or something. When you go, I forget whatever it's called, but whenever you break free from Scientology and they have to get you taken care of, I think it's called going clear. But in response, TFA utilized its press connections, websites, and social media accounts to do preemptive damage control. The memo describes how TFA monitors internet communications to pick up on controversy surrounding its brand and neutralize it before it grows. Its rapid response to online criticism of Mother Jones for running a TFA advertisement shows that its PR team has media manipulation down to an exact science. And this is from the internal memo that was leaked. As soon as we saw this conversation beginning to build, our communications team drafted a short response, see appendix, which shared the overwhelming positive reception we received from the magazine's readers and our disappointment that a small group would use this opportunity to rehash factually inaccurate information and distract attention from the critical issue of early childhood education. We posted its response on the record page within a few hours of the detractors making noise and tweeted it out from a national handle twice because the conversation wasn't immediately dying. And then they linked to a bunch of tweets that they did. The tweets generated 5 posts from 5 unique supporters and a Twitter reach of 107,519. The Twitter handle Teach for America represented 106,000 of the 107,000 supporters. The Twitter exposure was 213,621. There were 269 clicks on the link to on the record page. At this point, the conversation died. So they're straight up monitoring every single click, how many people are spreading it, when to drop them, and yeah, suppressive person. Yeah, and this is why, if you notice, these people that they have tend to be very social media savvy. They get a lot of, yeah, it sounds like a crap Scientology, libertarianism, and the talented 10th. And yeah, it's also this article is pretty good, and it can go on forever. And then he shows this tweet, which is by Deray, which I think is worth seeing. Y'all, President Obama has appointed Brittney, Miss Packnett, to the police task force. The movement lives. So this is what happened. After it was all over and they finished dissipating the movement on the ground in Ferguson and the cameras moved on, she got appointed to the police task force by Obama. Here's Deray celebrating it, saying the movement lives. And St. Louis today, St. Louis activist Packnett on Obama's policing commission. And that's where her career started. She's still doing work with the Obama Foundation now, as you see from that thing today. I didn't know that she was still there, but it kind of shows what a good hustle it is. And now here's the interesting part in Drew Franklin's article. Yeah, this is very true. But it's also created some of the most effective propaganda as well. But the people are kind of damaged too. The disproportionate devastation of the policies of TFA for Black communities created a race problem for TFA. In response to the growing backlash, TFA doubled down on its liberal rhetoric and began to rebrand itself as a civil rights organization. So now you kind of get to see why they need to have 2 in-house civil rights activists, right? The page is gone, but this was a blog page that they had a bunch of stuff on their page about Brown versus Board of Education, and they started referencing. I might be able to find it on the Wayback page. Hold on a second. I want to see if I can find this on the Wayback page, but the page I'm looking for is gone. But I'm gonna see if I could find. Here we go. They scrapped this, but I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. This is not on the webpage anymore. But they had this page. I have to go to the Wayback Machine to find it because I think due to the criticism on this article, they took it down. But because they were getting so much grief for being bad for Black communities and getting bad press for being racist and stuff, they started rebranding as being about civil rights. So you see on their blog, it's like 59 years after Brown versus Board of Ed, the spectrum of segregation still exists, and they have Tayaba Carisha, sounds like a Black name, attended a roundtable discussion with other people. So they started working in, and this is May 2013, about a year before the Ferguson thing happens. They started rebranding themselves as a being about civil rights to make it easier to do the work they have to do. And I think that's kind of where recruiting Deray and sending him down there ends up coming in, right? Do I need my tinfoil kufi? Is everyone still with me? Am I still, am I connecting the lines, or do I sound like Charlie from It's Always Sunny? You ever seen that meme when the guy has all the different things connected by lines and stuff? Yeah, I want to make sure y'all are not gonna try to get me committed with the tinfoil kufi, but yeah. So they started creating a new class of political operatives. One that was, and this is from their words, majority led by the oppressed group. So when the protests erupted in majority Black town of Ferguson, Missouri on August 9, 2014, TFA saw its windows of opportunity. Most people who follow the story will recognize the name Antonio French. He's an alderman for St. Louis, and he had a lot to do with making the police execution of Michael Brown a national headline. On August 21st, 2014, French announced TFA had set up shop in Ferguson. It was free publicity from a man whose business connections with TFA St. Louis chapter were well established. 2 years before, he founded a nonprofit modeled after Harlem's children's zone charter school industry, French's partner in the deal was Brittney Packnett. That's the girl who was just in the video today. So that video that we just saw today of Obama, and that girl who was moderating it, she was sent down there. She was then made the executive director of TFA St. Louis. The report they developed over the next year surely made it easier for Packnett to establish herself among the nascent protest movement's purported leadership. Twitter conversations between them suggest that Packnett was in Ferguson as early as August 12th, and she declared her quote-unquote revolutionary love for St. Louis Black children in a rather incoherent blog post. She goes, "Education didn't save Mike Brown." This is Brittney Packnett said this. "Racism killed him. There seems to be only one solution: end racism. While issues of inequitable education, unemployment, and poverty contribute to this crisis, racism is the cause for Mike's death. We must love our students enough to engage in the hard work of active anti-racism, confronting our own biases, and ensuring that we dismantle deadly systems of racial dominance and oppression." Then August 16th, a new player joins the operation, Deray McKesson. His story, he claims he took an 8.5-hour trip from Minneapolis to Ferguson under his own initiative and his own dollar. But being that Packnett is already there and there's all this TFA stuff laid on the ground, do you think his narrative is really true? That he just happened to show up, that this 6-figure TFA guy in charge of human capital, one of the upper people, which is like human resources, he's in charge of hiring and firing, just happens to drop everything he's doing and just go down to Ferguson, where someone else in TFA has been like put in charge of something, and suddenly they become the face of the movement, even though there have been a whole bunch of activists already there. And this person already has a connection and a relationship with the person who is kind of the face of politics down there. So he kind of makes sure that those guys, French, make sure they get into the camera, get in front of the cameras, Yeah, he was definitely airdropped in there. And the truth is, he's not, like, one thing I'm going to warn you, it's going to be a lot of right-wing sites that are reporting on this. Liberal sites won't touch it, but I do believe it. It seems plausible to me that he was on the White House logs already. I have to find the old articles because I haven't read them in years. But I remember I have to go to like kind of right wing sites, and they had leaks, and then I found it through their leaks. So there is an air of mystery surrounding McKesson's seemingly spontaneous appearance on the scene, but in any case, he soon found his place among the TFA cohort, and he was a TFA alumnus, and he's a very true believer in TFA. And McKesson was present with Antonio French and Brittney Packnett the day Teach for America began its Ferguson campaign in earnest on August 24th, 2014. He joined French in publicizing the event on Twitter, while TFA began the work of curating his public image on the same day with a feature in the TFA blog. So they did a TFA blog telling people, and that thing has disappeared too. That thing is gone. So they took it away, but basically, I think it's still on the Wayback Machine. So basically, if you go back, if you go back, TFA announces, right? I'm gonna show you this real quick. Are y'all getting blackpilled? Am I blackpilling y'all? I just want to see how much bullshit is out there. After they took it down, but they weren't savvy enough to scrub the Wayback Machine. There's actual ways you can set, like some racist reporters at Daily Caller. When I went to look for their old racist blog posts, I found out that they scrubbed the Wayback Machine. So there is a way to do it. I guess TFA didn't do it. They just took it down. So from the Wayback Machine, my blacklist is not a weapon. August 21st, 2014. Deray McKesson, and they show him like hitchhiking or something, on the way to Ferguson. It's like a stupid origin story. Like, why were they already profiling him? And if you see the internal memo that was leaked, these people are very savvy about getting things out. They measure engagement, they measure tweets, they measure all this stuff, right? Yeah, he said it's getting a little Infowars-ish. Tell me if it is. If it's getting Infowars-ish, I can stop, But I mean, everything is here. I'm not pulling this out of thin air, I, it sounds crazy, but hey, um, so they put this whole blog thing up, and they're promoting him, and he supposedly like ditched the job, um, but they're promoting him and saying, hey, keep an eye out for our rising star who's going down there, you know? Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, but they know a lot about Deray. There's a pretty good New York Times article about him. It's kind of interesting. Um, there is a lot of information about Deray, but the TFA stuff is kind of crazy, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing. You can find all the links that I'm going to put, but I will put one of the more egregious things that he did that really pissed me off. Um, he said this. He said he compared. This is where I knew he was full of shit. He said charter schools were like the Black Panther free breakfast program. He said this while he was down there. Uh, can y'all see the tweet? Programs do importantly expand our collective notions of what is possible. Think the Black Panthers free breakfast program and charter schools. Um, that's how that's how you know he was crazy. Yeah, that he was on a mission. So he was going in that hard while he was down there about trying to get trying to get and Antonio French got a $500,000 grant from the state of Missouri for his St. Louis. So the two of them got the Peter Jennings Award, while Antonio French got a 500,000 grant from the state of Missouri for his St. Louis nonprofit. And Yeah, they're international. They're in Teach for America now. They've started globetrotting. They've exported to India, Lebanon, Colombia, um, Israel, and other places. And in Israel, they're partnership with the Zionist Resettlement Program. So, and the Israeli Ministry of Education, they're really up there. And then after it was all said and done, after Brittney Packnett got her place on Obama's commission, and Deray got his name, and Antonio French got his $500,000 grant for his work in there. You can see them. This is announced by TFA. The winners of the 2015 Peter Jennings Award for Civic Leadership are Miss Packyetti and D. Ray, and still paying dividends for it now. She's still whatever. And Brittney Packnett saw this. She lost her shit. She went crazy on this guy, and um, this thing raised a lot of eyebrows when it happened. And at that point, it was kind of too late. He tried to do different things. He tried to do mayoral campaign and different things, but a lot of things did not work. And I'm not going to get into all of it because you have the links in the description. After I'm done, I'm gonna edit it and put a bunch of articles so you can read it all for yourself. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I'm gonna find one. Something real quick. This is a Black Agenda Report has a lot of good stuff on this. Uh, Hold on one second. But D Ray, his mayoral campaign also had a lot of for America playbook stuff happening as well. So there was a lot more stuff happening as well. And but he wasn't able to make it work. D-Ray eventually made it to the Aspen Institute in Colorado. And do y'all know about the Aspen Institute? The Aspen Institute is pretty crazy. But I'll just put that link in there too. I'm not going to talk about it. But the Aspen Institute is this conference where all the one percenters go. And after he got put on, he got sent to the Aspen Institute, and he spoke at the Aspen Institute. And he spoke on a Black Lives Matter panel. But he's basically been at panels where he's making connections with um, the one percenters and building his connections there. And he did panel appearances, and yeah, the Aspen conference is about big people. Is one of the social occasions. This is according to Black Agenda Report, where if you're invited, you get actual FaceTime with the 1% of the 1%. You can hike a trail along with the Bank of America president or one of the senior partners at Booz Allen Hamilton, the accountants for the Pentagon and Department of Homeland Security. And Aspen also provides video and mic time to thought leaders useful for this distribution to the thought followers. These are their words in their brochures. They say thought leaders and thought followers, and showing them in the presence of other big people, which kind of pumps up the stature of the thought leader too. Aspen is about big people having a good time in the mountains with other big people, flattering each other for supposed quote unquote big ideas. Um, Now, E. Ray ended up after that. E. Ray ends up doing Wells Fargo sponsorship. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Deray's thing for, and I think this is very, very telling. And we're gonna wrap it up soon. Then we're gonna be done. But I just kind of want people to see how all this stuff ties together. All this stuff ties together. So right here, have y'all ever seen this? Um, he's throwing up the Black Power fist, sponsored by Deray. From Black Panthers to Black Lives Matter, the movement continues, sponsored by Wells Fargo. And my personal thought is that things like the Aspen Institute stuff, helps him meet up with people like Wells Fargo and get, because all those big bankers, all of the 1% of the 1% end up at this thing. And I mean, these guys are beyond sold. I don't think you guys understand how sold these guys are. And one of the things really interesting, Black Agenda Report, which is one of the places that has reported on all this stuff, after Hillary Clinton lost, they were mentioned in Washington Post as a fake news site. They ended up being called. Do you remember Proper or Not, which is about propaganda, and it was like this liberal thing that was about fake news. Remember when the liberals were really in the resistance for pushing fake news until that ended up getting fucked up and getting co-opted by Trump and the right, and they basically judo flipped it on them. But yeah, Black Agenda Report, which has done some of the most report on this, they announced that they were a Russian propaganda site. One of our recent guests, Margaret Kimberly, is affiliated with the Black Agenda Report. They're a Black socialist site, but yeah, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. So I'm not going to go too much more into this stuff. You can look it up in all the links that I put up. You'll see all of it. There's no need, but there's a lot of work and articles done, but the mainstream media doesn't touch it. And the people that they assign to the Black Beat in the mainstream media are all these people's friends and blue checks, and you know these people are in with Obama, so they're not gonna report badly on people that Obama's with, because if they do exposés on these people, and these people are on Obama's commission and his foundation, and they're all on his shit, yeah, they're not gonna do anything with that. So yeah, one last thing I want to talk about to get off all this together, but all this is kind of show in retrospect. This is what Obama, I think, was really doing when all this stuff happened. So you see the stuff in his town hall, and they're gloating and they're giving themselves all these props for what they were doing. I think what they were really doing was astroturfing, making commissions, and they're still hanging out with the people that were dissipating the energy um to begin with. He's giving these town halls, and what he's doing with this stuff is sending people to his foundation page, probably soliciting donations. And I wouldn't be surprised if that Zoom thing in the corner was an endorsement. He probably auctioned that off, asked people who wanted to be in the corner, Skype, Zoom, whatever. Yeah, wait. So are you saying that I'm giving him too much credit? Is that what you're saying? Maybe I am. Is like, are you saying that I'm going over the top? Like, I'm not giving them levels of superpowers because I think they're kind of flailing right now. I mean, like, I think their ambitions are pretty big, but I don't think they're doing that great. Like, the Raised Baltimore campaign didn't do very good. They've been kind of scrambling around for a hustle. You can tell Obama's kind of shaky about his legacy because, he's good at making money. He's good at working the influencer game, but I think he wants to be an influence peddler. Politically, he wants to be a sheepdogger of Black voters, and I don't think that's working for him. You know? Yeah, yeah. So, uh, I think that he's trying like I think he wants to be, the master influencer and make a lot of money, but I also think he values this idea of being the first black president and the sheepdogger of black people and the black vote. And that's kind of in danger. It was already in danger with Hillary, and I think that's why he took so long to endorse Biden. And yeah, and the Aspen Institute is a grift in and of itself, but that would be a whole different thing. If I was to go into Aspen Institute, then I would really be like the guy from It's Always Sunny. That's a whole different, the kind of people who go to the Aspen Institute. Like, if y'all understood more about the Aspen Institute, it would be, your eyebrows would really be raised at that. The fact that he's fucking with these people. Yeah. So um see, so there's also an article I'm going to put about Brittney Packnett responding to a lot of these claims from the independent media, right? The fact that she responded to all of them, I think, kind of showed that there's some smoke to the fire. That she actually got very heated and responded to things from Black Agenda Report, Orchestrated Pulse, and In These Times, and all this stuff. But it's totally uncovered in the mainstream stuff. It does not get covered in like Washington Post, New York Times, all that stuff. They just end up selling the press release. You just send them the press release. They're click driven anyway. They don't have time to really look into everything. And it's the black beat, so who cares? The Black Lives Matter, just say intersectional and show some lesbians with nose rings and some non-threatening black guys, and that's their beat. That's the way they treat it. Like, something like Black Agenda Report, the Black Misleadership class is their beat, and they're black themselves and they're radical, so they take it seriously. But these people get a light touch from the type of media that boomers and liberals read, the so-called mainstream media, and it's helped them. It's helped them a lot. It's helped them a lot so far. But this is the article if you want to read more about Brittney Packnett specifically. It's on the Black Agenda Report. It's called TFA Black Lives Matter Campaign Zero activist Brittney Packnett almost tries to defend the indefensible. And it talks about this piece she had that I think was in response to in, in response to all. So check this out. I want y'all to check this out. So they take down her piece in this. So you should definitely look into that. But this is the piece. It was on HuffPost, and it was called "Let's Get Back to Work" by Brittney Packnett, contributor. This is in 2016, a couple of years after Ferguson, right? And she goes, "Recently, I've become aware of another conspiracy, one which I am apparently knowingly aiding and abetting, to my surprise." And she links to Michelle Malkin, right? Who's a kind of a crackpot, but she doesn't link to the one that I was reading from by Drew Franklin, which was really dotted its I's and crossed its T's. I find that very interesting that she linked to the crackpot Michelle Malkin one. But and I know she's aware of it because she was arguing and attacking him online, and she was sending trolls and her sycophants his way, So I thought it was very interesting that she was aware of it, but she didn't say anything. So she brings up, "It's easy to portray me as the evil Trojan horse, a subtle opportunist seeking power and access to carry out my evil scheme behind the mask of black skin. It's more difficult to acknowledge the truth that on August 10th, the day after Mike Brown was killed, I stood in my community of North St. Louis without the permission of my superiors." And she goes on and gives her origin story, but it doesn't really. It goes into a defense of how good she is for Teach for America is, and how good she is, but it doesn't really refute or address all the truth in the Drew Franklin piece. And I find that very interesting. It's as information light and light on hard data and details as the town hall that she did today. Yeah, so there you go. So I want y'all to think about today's meeting today's town hall in that context. Like it's easy to just laugh at all this stuff. I want you to kind of understand these people are always realigning, and Obama's on it too. They're always realigning the grift. They're always realigning partnerships. They're always realigning how to make money. And I think there's got to be some kind of um, money making scheme behind it. His library is very interesting. You should read about his library. His library is almost all digital and it's almost no content. A lot of people who are into presidential libraries have been talking about his library and how his library is just basically like it's basically like influencer central. It's basically just flat. It's like a flashy Netflix interface. It's very light on content. Very there's like nothing physical in it, and it's just all dazzle, spectacle, technocratic. Um, it's like what a PowerPoint is to a first edition hardcover. Um, that's what his thing is. Last thing I'm gonna say about Keisha Bottoms. I'm gonna talk about Keisha Bottoms real quick. I thought this was interesting, right? Oh, and also for people who want to know what the eight that can't wait are, for people who want to know what the eight that can't wait are, these are the eight that can't wait. Eight reforms that could dramatically reduce police violence. We already read these. These were on Obama's site at the fourth level of inception. These were on Obama's site, the eight that can't wait. Very lukewarm, but they're pushing this eight that can't wait everywhere and getting people to come onto their website. And they're probably gonna get a lot of people to donate to the foundation and do all this other stuff, right? Now, the same day GQ releases this, and I found the timing very interesting. That GQ releases today. Deray McKesson. On the 8 reforms that could dramatically reduce police violence. So they just updated the website last minute, because this is what I'm saying. I don't think they're doing as good as they seem, because this fast hard pivot is almost like, oh man, this is back in the news. Quick, everyone, get the old band back together again. It's back to dead black men. It's back to police brutality. And he starts sending out the press releases, getting everything lined up, to go at once. So today you have the town hall. There's a new update to the foundation. Brittney Packnett's moderating the town hall. Nothing substantive is said to it. Everyone's being sent to the website. And GQ drops this article today, and they're spamming it all over the internet like crazy. I'm sure they've got they're trying to push it, and they've probably got people retweeting it as well. They probably got the best influencers that they can. They probably asked them to retweet this. So I'm sure a lot of people retweeting it with blue checks are being asked by somebody to retweet it. If there's like a internal memo somewhere, I bet it says these are the 10, 20 people that we can get. Those internal memos say that a lot. That's what happened with the DNC when their thing was leaked in the 2016 election, and they were talking about all the influencers that they right. So this thing is a total puff piece. Ray McKesson on the 8 reforms that could dramatically reduce police violence. Campaign Zero as a concrete data-backed proposal for changing how police departments use force. So this thing is not even being real journalism. It's not even giving it a hard checking. You can tell it's a total press release. I'm not going to waste your time. Even bothering to read it. They basically give it no scrutiny. They just swallow the shit with no question. And then they just ask Deray, and what's Deray going to say? He's not going to say anything. There's nothing. I mean, if y'all want to read it, you can, but you're not going to get anything out of it. I'm not going to dwell on it at all. But I want to revisit this one last thing about Keisha Bottoms, and then we're done. Appreciate your patience. But do y'all remember Keisha Bottoms? And I think Obama's connecting with Keisha Bottoms. They mentioned her in the town hall, I think, right? And I talked about how her speech is basically her setting herself to be
Of whom is
the new lackey to
18 years
power.
old.
She's setting herself up to be the new person that dissipates energy and talks to black people crazy the way Obama did when he was coming up. Like let white people know, uh, just because I'm black, I'm not going to go easy on these niggas. And also, you can use me as your shield, right? So remember this. Remember this. Let me know if this. Let me know if the sound is on. I might have forgotten to put the sound. Actually, let me make sure the sound is on. Hold on. But let's look at this again, right? Like,
And when I saw the murder of George Floyd, I hurt like a mother would hurt. And on yesterday, when I heard there were rumors about violent protests in Atlanta, I did what a mother would do. I called my son and I said, "Where are you?" I said, "I cannot protect you, and black boys shouldn't be out today. So you're not going to out concern me and out care about where we are in America." I wear this each and every day, and I pray over my children each and every day.
Yeah, I'm sorry to revisit.
So what
this,
I see happening on
there's
the
a reason.
streets of Atlanta is not Atlanta. This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr.
There we go.
This is chaos. A protest has purpose.
It has no purpose.
When Dr. King was assassinated, we didn't do this to our city. So if you love this,
one thing I love is that they say it has no purpose or whatever, but they just announced that they bumped up the charge from 3rd-degree murder to 2nd-degree, and they just announced they're charging the other 3 cops. So for something that has no purpose, it's accomplished more than any neoliberal shows ever have.
Of this city that has had a legacy of black mayors and black police chiefs and people who care about this city, where more than 50% of the business owners in Metro Atlanta are minority business owners.
See how her voice is shaking?
If you
She's so
care
mad and crying
about this city, then go home and pray that somebody
pointed out that after Martin Luther King died, though, that there were riots. But also the fact that Martin Luther King died, I think, is another thing that undermines what she's saying. Because it's like, yeah, so Martin Luther King did everything that you say is the right way. And how did the powers that be appreciate it? They killed him, So what's your point?
Somebody like Reverend Beasley will come and talk to you and give you some instructions on what a protest should look like and how you effectuate change in America.
Yeah. So she can get you a reverend, to show you what a protest looks like and how you effectuate change. Meanwhile, these guys got people charged when they weren't going to get charged, got charges bumped up, and then got 3 more people charged because they're so desperate to get this nationwide unrest under control. So, like, what are you even talking about?
This police chief made a video on yesterday, pull it up on YouTube, where she said she was appalled to watch the murder of George Floyd. This woman did that. You're not honoring the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement. You're not protesting anything running out with brown liquor in your hands, breaking windows in this city. Liquor, T.I. and Killer Mike own half the West.
So first she brings up the brown liquor, and she goes, and those hippity hop guys that y'all like, with your pants sagging, they don't agree with you. Like, this is just total trope. She's like, with your brown liquor. And that brown liquor was like a total dog whistle wink to the powers that be. And we spoke about that before. I'm not playing the whole thing again. There's a reason why I'm replaying this, and it's the last thing we're gonna do. There's a reason why I replayed that, and it comes to this, like, a certain type of Twitter, a certain type of social media account was loving that to death. There was a certain type of social media account that was really happy to see that. And I think y'all know where I'm going to go with this. That's right. All Lives Matter Twitter was going ape shit. They were busting nuts in their pants. A whole bunch of people with these AVs were like, that's a good type of black people that we need. Black people, y'all need to listen to them. Listen to her. I don't like Democrats, but I would vote for her. This type of profile pic on Facebook everywhere was going nuts. They were just busting nuts in their pants left and right. It was so funny to see. Like every time I saw, and then sure enough, this thing appears. Where it talks about protests elevate Bottoms and Demings as possible Biden running mates. So the story comes out in Reuters that the protests have actually elevated the profile and makes it more likely to be Biden's. Yeah, she's got the John and Kate +8 haircut, don't you? she looks like a Karen. There are POC Karens, man. She is definitely a Karen. Like she's got that talk to your manager POC Karen look for sure. She is the black John and Kate +8. When I saw her, I was like, "There's nothing good gonna come from this woman." No black woman was able to have that hairstyle past 1995. Like after 1995, that hairstyle became the domain of "Can I speak to your manager, Karens?" Like, you know what I'm saying? That's yeah. So I really knew she was full of it when I saw that, right? But yeah, look at that. Protests elevate Bottoms and Demings. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms has risen in prominence amid protests against police brutality. Yeah. So and they talk about her. They talk about her speech as one of the things that she also urged protesters. They give her credit for firing 2 officers over the weekend for excessive use of force on protesters, right? So, that sounds good, right? At least she was firing 2 cops over excessive use of force, right? That sounds good, right? And then they only give 1 paragraph of ink to that, but they give 3 paragraphs to. She also urged protesters not to tear apart the city. She brought up Martin Luther King. She said that chaos is wrong. You're obscuring the message of peaceful protesters, and they quote all that stuff. And yeah, so do y'all know about the officers that she fired, right? Because that's what we're gonna get to next, right? Do you know about the officers that she fired? Because this is where it gets interesting, right? So y'all got to see how crazy. Like, I don't give her props for firing these officers because this was so bad. I kind of see why some of the things are so bad. Like the same way the George Floyd thing was so bad that they had to fire. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. The 2 college students. So these aren't thugs. These aren't whatever. It's 2 college students who they felt, I guess, didn't comply with slowing down like during the riots. Like these are. I saw the press conference. They are wholesome as hell, and I think they just knew. Okay, fuck it, we got to take an L on this. But look, and you see that they're not resisting, not doing anything crazy. They're just like, what's going on? Look.
Guys, come to me right now. Come to me right now.
Are you guys able
to me right now? Come to me right now.
Are you guys able to hear the sound?
Come to me right now.
Look how crazy they're doing. They stabbed the tires. They're not even trying to get away.
Come to me
Now
right
watch.
now.
Now watch. Look how crazy this is. And they're using tasers on them now. They pulled the girl out and they keep re-tasing him. He's not even doing anything.
Come to me right now.
He's too stunned to comply. And they keep they tase them again. Like they're tasing him from every single direction. They knife the tires. And this is the newscasters who are watching this. That's the newscaster who's saying, "Come to me right now. Come to me right now." They tasered both of them, but they kept tasing him over and over, and he couldn't even comply. They slashed the tires. Look how many people they took. I don't know why they're going so crazy. And yeah, it's a car. Yeah, and that's the other thing. There's a car for the white people pass. One of them was even waving at the camera Like it was right. So you see how crazy that is, right? Yeah. This is why another reason why I say that eight that can't wait shit is bullshit, because saying that he's got a gun, that's the way of giving a verbal warning. That's the verbal warning. There were a ton of verbal warnings on that. I think they might have eventually fired six. I think two was what first happened at the time of the article. I could be wrong. If someone can check. If someone could check, right? So y'all see that, right? Now, y'all saw Keisha Bottoms talk to those people, the so-called looters or the protesters. She had her outside voice for them. Now let's look how she addresses this. And she has her inside voice like crazy. Look at this. Oh, I've got to see this. Let me just enlarge it real quick.
Discussions based on what we saw on that footage. After review of that footage, Chief Shields and I have made the determination that 2 of the officers involved in the incident last night will be terminated immediately.
No passion, nothing.
The other 3 officers are right now on desk duty, pending further determination of what, if any, appropriate action, disciplinary action should be taken against them. The release of that body cam footage and the corresponding police report should be available to the media immediately. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Shields for comment, and also to Chief Bryant for comment, and then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah. So y'all saw that. It's like, and then yeah, and I guess 2 of them are fired, 3 got police duty. Like, there was none of that. This is not my Atlanta. This is not this and that. So these people are all bought and sold. I think she's gonna end up with, so this is the whole thing about mayors signed this pledge. You see how scared these people are, police unions. Like, so that infomercial, that infographic, all that stuff, it's not gonna work. That thing about mayors signing pledges, like, they know everything that's wrong. They're just scared to death of the police unions, and they're all trying to get the next rung of the ladder. You know what I'm saying? Talking tough to these police unions, that's not gonna get her the VP pick. That's not gonna get her all this stuff. So they know their place. That Obama town hall is nonsense. It pacifies liberals, and it's just crap. And that's it. I hope y'all found this useful. I hope you guys found all my tinfoil kufi connections of use. And if anybody can put in the comments, I hope someone's been doing it, like timestamps. That'll be very, very useful, because I don't want to re-listen to all this again. And yeah, that's basically it. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for being patient. Yeah, definitely appreciate everybody coming out. Yeah, I mean, what can you do? What can you do? Oh, I didn't hear this. This is true, but no, that's not it. This one, the chief sent a memo throwing out that she felt the firing was political. Yeah, so even something like that, she still got grief. It was as lukewarm about it as possible, and the police chief still gave her. Oh, this is a good question. He said, "Now what can I do?" Honestly, doing your homework's the best thing you can do, because it's hard. It's hard for these people to do the dirt when the light is shining on them. As long as the people shining the light on them, you neutralize them. At worst, I'd have to find a whole bunch of new shills or whatever. But someone said you can take a pledge. Yeah, I'm gonna come up with your 8-point anti-shill pledge, and it's gonna have a PowerPoint. It's gonna take me. I'll take about 6 hours to do it, about as long as the Obama Foundation took. I'll just send it to Fiverr, and by tomorrow you'll have the 8-point pledge, and I'll make sure it has like on some Squarespace shit. Yeah. All right, y'all. Good night, everybody. Comment, like, and share. Most important thing, if you can't donate to the Patreon or do stuff like that, you can go to the Patreon and donate, but you can always share. Sharing always helps us, and that's the best thing you can do. All right. Take care, guys. Be good.